and no human rights. There's the Gaza situation, there's also the West Bank situation where you have all this expansion of illegal settlements time and time and time again, and just raising Palestinian villages and setting up new settlements. In Gaza, of course, it's literally a permanent military occupation where goods don't flow freely in and out. They control the electricity, and they control every aspect of human existence. So it's like, is that what's at the core of this? Did this breed the resentment that leads to this backlash? Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. So, again, yet again, I'm reminded, I don't know if social media made us all insane, or if everybody was already insane and now it's just showing it to the world, right? But I've seen a lot of very, very disturbing reactions to this. And so now what my fear is, apart from the fact that everybody lost their goddamn mind, is that this seems like it's going to spiral out of control completely, right? And there's zero, I mean, some of the squad members called for a ceasefire and de-escalation, and it's like they got ruthlessly and viciously dunked on, and the entire political establishment is calling for vengeance, and they're bloodthirsty, and it's like this idea of like, let's do even more militarization. Let's crack down even harder on Palestinians. And it's like, so the cycle of violence, in other words, is not going to end, right? And again, what I fear is, best case scenario, what we're going to see now is what we saw with Operation Protective Edge in 2014, which is overwhelming, disproportionate military force, where Israel just absolutely levels Gaza and the Palestinians. And I think worst case scenario, this breaks out into a much, much wider conflict. And Lebanon gets even more involved. Iran gets dragged in. We already had U.S. politicians calling for war with Iran. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's not good, man. It's not good. And it's only going to get worse. So we'll end on this note here. I want to give you guys some of the numbers in this conflict. The human cost of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, this is documented by the United Nations. In 2008, you had 3,202 Palestinians killed, 853 Israelis. 2009, 7,460 Palestinian killed 123 Israelis. 2010, 1,659 Palestinians killed, 185 Israelis. 2011, 2,260 Palestinians killed, 136 Israelis. 2012, 4,936 Palestinians killed, 578 Israelis. 2013, 4,031 Palestinians killed, 157 Israelis. 2014, this is when we have... Hello, YouTube. In this...
In this video, we're going to look at death. In particular, is death a bad thing for the person who dies? Does death harm us? Many people fear death, pretty much all of us try to avoid it, but is there really anything to be afraid of? Now, first, we're going to assume for the purposes of this video that death involves annihilation. So there is no afterlife. Once a person dies, that's the end of them. Death is the permanent cessation of biological and psychological processes. So when we ask, is death bad, what we're asking is annihilation bad? Obviously...
And I agree that death is annihilation. Generic subjective continuity damned. Identity nihilism kind of just shows that our consciousness is very unlikely that they'll ever... I mean, one, we're constantly dying and stuff of that nature, but in terms of like our identity. But two, it's just statistically unlikely that our consciousness will ever be the way it is now. I mean, everything would have to arrange in the universe exactly as is. And I don't think that that will play out ever in that way. I mean, it's just, as Mendham says, it's just like the fact that evolution is just an unlikely way to play out. It's random mutation. The fact that it would have to randomly occur all the way to this exact point. We know life is a statistical anomaly, so it's just kind of like it's very unlikely to crop up in this universe ever again. In any way, like, you know, even similar to humans in intelligence. So you make the argument that like it doesn't need to be exactly you; it just needs to be like intelligent enough to feel similar things to you. But it's just like if life on Earth is wiped out, it's not gonna, like, if everything on Earth died hypothetically. Wouldn't matter if like there's other life potentially. I mean, it would matter if there's other life in the universe, but like the fact is it's not likelihood there's other life in the universe. I mean, it's just statistical unlikelihood that there's other life in the universe is what I was trying to say. But yeah, my point being that like hearing about death isn't bad because generic subjective continuity is not exactly a great argument in my opinion. I mean, I don't experience this the potentiality of like infinitude. You know, I just don't. I mean, as I didn't exist before I was born, I'm pretty sure after I die, I'm just gonna go back to my particles scattering about in random configurations. You know, determined by the very beginning of time, set in motion. You know, so it's just kind of like, we know entropy exists. Everything's gonna collapse on itself and disperse in a constant heat death where all matter becomes a constant temperature. You know, we know that's going to occur. So it's just kind of like, I see no reason for it to reconfigure in a way where atoms can rearrange themselves Big Bang style and play out the exact way. I mean, you could say, sure, it goes infinite amount of time, you know, it's going to happen eventually, but I just don't see that. Like, it's also possible that it just never happens. That was a one-time occurrence, you know? Like, there's no rule saying it must occur, you know? Like, just because we're conscious now, it doesn't mean we have to be conscious again. Like, there's no rule that say that. I mean, but, you know, whatever. Let's just get into the actual video now. I've covered the meaning top generic subjective continuity being like just assume that like we can actually die permanently, like, you know, because I assume we can actually die permanently. Like, even if you can't die permanently, like, absence of existence is still a good thing, given the fact that existence is primarily a negative. So even if you can't experience the absence, it's still a good thing. Like, you know, no shit or shit, you know, you're gonna choose just to have nothing. Nothingness is better than shit. So, but, you know, let's just get into it.
You know, there can be plenty of debate about whether or not this is the right view of what happens after death. Again, you know, we're just going to take that for granted here, okay? So we're going to assume that death is annihilation. Right. First of all, then, we can state the harm thesis. The harm thesis says that death is sometimes bad for those who die. This is, I suppose, the common sense view of death, of the value of death. Now, there are some important clarifications to the harm thesis. So first of all, the harm thesis specifically concerns being dead, not the process of dying. Few people will deny that dying can be an extremely bad experience. There can be plenty of suffering in the process of dying, but once you're actually dead, the suffering, of course, is over. The harm thesis specifically claims that your non-existence is bad. It's bad even when there is no more suffering. So, you know, this is what we're going to be talking about here, is being dead, not dying. Second, the harm thesis, of course, concerns only the person who dies. Again, few people will deny that a person's death can be bad for other people. When you die, your loved ones will experience a terrible loss. That's going to be bad for them. What's in question here is whether death is bad for the actual person who dies. Third, an advocate of the harm thesis can grant that death is not always bad for the person who dies. For instance, if a person has a disease that causes severe disability and pain and it's incurable, a person in that state might reasonably welcome non-existence. Of course, even in this case, it might well be that we view death as the lesser of two evils. So it's not that their death is good for them, really. It's just preferable to continued suffering. It's better for them to be dead, but still not good. I mean, we're going to put this kind of example aside, though, and consider, you know, an average adult human being who has a reasonably good quality of life. The question is, would death be bad for that person? The harm thesis says yes. Yes, it would be. Okay, so that's probably fairly commonsensical. Now, a classic argument against the harm thesis comes from Epicurus. According to Epicurus, death cannot be bad for the person who dies. Here's how Epicurus states the argument. He says that death is nothing to us, for all good and evil consists in sensation, but death is the deprivation of sensation. The man speaks but idly, who says that he fears death not because it will be painful when it comes, but because it is painful in anticipation. For that which gives no trouble when it comes is but an empty pain in anticipation. So death, the most terrifying of ills, is nothing to us, since so long as we exist, death is not with us, but when death comes, then we do not exist. It does not then concern either the living or the dead, since for the former it is not, and the latter are no more. Now, there are actually two distinct arguments being made in this passage, at least two distinct arguments. There's the hedonist argument and the existence argument. So let's start with the hedonist argument. Okay, all good and evil, Epicurus tells us, consists in sensation. The idea here is as hedonists would say, well-being is simply a matter of pleasure and pain. Good and evil is just a matter of pleasure and pain, right? So the good is just what brings us pleasure. The bad is what brings us pain. In order to be harmed, I must be subject to painful sensations, but once I'm dead, well, all of my sensations, all of my experiences will cease. So all of my negative experiences will cease, which is just to say that nothing will harm me. So this argument can kind of be broken down into two steps. The initial step of the argument is as follows. Only pain is intrinsically bad. So premise 1, only pain is intrinsically bad. Premise 2, when a person is dead, she cannot experience pain. So premise 3, being dead cannot be intrinsically bad for the person who dies. It can't be bad in itself for the person who dies. Now, this is the first step. Even if something is not intrinsically bad, even if it's not bad in itself, it might still be instrumentally bad. So there are some things that are instrumentally bad because, you know, for something to be instrumentally bad is for it to cause things that are intrinsically bad. So on a hedonist view, all that is
I think pain is
intrinsically good is
intrinsically
pleasure,
bad.
all that is intrinsically bad
But,
is pain.
hey.
But there are various things that can cause pleasure or cause pain. So we can say that these are instrumentally good or bad. Something is instrumentally good or bad insofar as it leads to those things that are intrinsically good or bad. So think about something like smoking every day. In itself, smoking every day might not be unpleasant. Indeed, a lot of people seem to enjoy it, but it causes lung cancer, which then causes a great deal of suffering. So we might think, okay, smoking is instrumentally bad. Smoking is something which is going to lead to various negative consequences. So, okay, we can complete the hedonist argument by continuing it as follows. Premise 4, something can be intrinsically bad only if it causes things, something can be instrumentally bad only if it causes things that are intrinsically bad. Premise 5, a person's death cannot cause any pain to her, and so the conclusion is a person's death cannot be instrumentally bad for her. Now, obviously, my knowledge of my impending death might cause various negative experiences. Plenty of people fear death, and fear is an unpleasant experience. Fear is a kind of pain. In this respect, death is connected to unpleasant experiences, but note that it's not my death itself that is causing that fear. Rather, it is my thinking about my death, my knowledge of my death. That's what causes the fear. The fact that I expect to die in the future, the fact that I'm thinking about it, that's what's causally responsible for my fear of death. So, I mean, assuming that causes have to precede their effects, clearly my death cannot cause anything to happen to me because once I die, I won't exist. So that the result is that a person's death is neither intrinsically bad nor instrumentally bad. A person's death is not bad in itself because there's no pain, and it's not instrumentally bad because it can't cause any pain, at least not to the person who dies. And so this is just to say it isn't bad, period. So the argument that we've just given assumes a hedonist account of well-being, right? It assumes that, you know, the good is what is pleasurable, the bad is what is painful. There are many objections to hedonism. I won't get into too much detail on the debate about the different theories of well-being, but here's a classic kind of counterexample to hedonism. So let's say that Verity and Delia are in a relationship. Unbeknownst to Verity, Delia is seeing another woman. Verity never finds out. She never suspects Delia of infidelity. Verity's experiences are indistinguishable from what they would be if Delia were faithful. But still, we might think Delia's infidelity is bad for Verity. Delia's infidelity makes Verity worse off. We might even think that it would be good for Verity to learn the truth, even though the truth is going to be very painful for Verity. So the moral is, if you accept all of that, well, not all that's good or bad for a person reduces to pleasure or pain. So hedonism is wrong. For a bit more on the arguments concerning hedonism, I have a video on Robert Nozick's experience machine thought experiment. I will put a link to that in the comments. Anyway, what this example suggests is, well, an alternative view of well-being. Maybe well-being is a matter of desire satisfaction. So I'm better off when my desires are satisfied and worse off when my desires are thwarted. This is why Verity is worse off. She desires that Delia be faithful, that Delia be honest. And that's not the case, right? Verity's desires are actually being thwarted, even though she's not aware of this. Now, clearly, many of my desires are going to be thwarted by death. I have various plans and projects, various things I want to achieve in the future. If I was to get hit by a bus tomorrow, all of that would just be cut short. So on that kind of view, death is going to be bad. Okay, so we might well reject the hedonist argument by simply rejecting hedonism. There is another difficulty for the hedonist argument, though, which is going to hold even if we accept hedonism. So let's say we just accept hedonism. Well, there's a difficulty here which comes from a view known as deprivationism. So we might say, even if we're hedonists, we might say that the harm thesis is still true because the problem is that once we die, positive experiences are going to cease. So we're harmed not by any particular negative experiences, but by the cessation of positive experiences. So this is deprivationism, and it's a very popular account of what makes death bad. What's bad about death, according to the deprivationist, is that it deprives a person of the life she would have had her death not occurred. It deprives a person of the good things that she would have had if her death had not occurred. And we might add as well that the earlier a person dies, the more good she is deprived of, so the worse her death is. And that seems to track with our ordinary judgments about death. I mean, dying is tragic in general, but a very young person dying is more tragic than an older person
You're
dying.
also
And it's worse if
depriving
an
them of all
18-year-old gets
negative
hit by a bus than if an 80-year-old just kind of dies of old age.
which is far more.
We feel that in some sense the young person has lost more, and according to the deprivationist, that's exactly the case, right? Like the young person has been
There's
deprived
also
of
no
more
guarantee
potential
of good
goods.
things.
So the
It's
deprivationist view assumes a
hypothetical, you're rejecting
comparativist
good things
account of harm, according to which an event E is bad for a person P only if E makes P's well-being lower than it would have been
and you're also
had
rejecting that
E
it's
not occurred.
good.
So in general, we are harmed by those events that make our
It
lives
is good, but it's
worse than they otherwise would be. I'm harmed by an event just in case either it causes more suffering or it causes less pleasure than I otherwise would have experienced. It's a fairly straightforward idea, right? Like if I fall down and break my arm, well, the idea is okay, like had that event not occurred, my well-being would have been greater. I would not have suffered so many pains. I would not have become disabled, etc. So now, so the idea is I'm harmed by an event just in case it makes me worse off than I otherwise would have been. But the idea is, look, this is clearly the case for death. So Owen Luder died in 2021. Had Owen Luder's death not occurred in 2021, had it occurred later, he would have had more positive experiences and so would have had greater well-being. Now, here we're assuming hedonism about well-being, but we could frame this point in terms of other accounts of well-being as well. So, had Owen Luder's death not occurred in 2021, he would have been able to fulfill more of his desires. So just in general, had Owen Luder lived for longer than he did, he would have received more goods. He would have been better off. Death is bad for us, not because it causes us to suffer any specific evils, but because it deprives us of various goods. It deprives us of the pleasant experiences we would have had if we hadn't died. Indeed, there can be no greater loss to a person than their death. When a person dies, they lose everything. So, deprivation of goods is bad, and death is the worst deprivation that a person can possibly suffer. That's why death is bad. Now, I mean, of course, everything that is being said here assumes that the person who dies would have had a positive quality of life had they not died. I mean, if what awaits a person is just decades of suffering, then even a deprivationist might say that death is not bad for that person because they're not being deprived of a good life. Again, that seems to track with our intuitions, at least many people's intuitions. Okay then, so a quick advert. If you like my channel, you can support me on Patreon, where I upload bonus videos about once a week. A one-off donation you can give on PayPal. I also offer private tutoring in philosophy. Email if you're interested.
I disagree with Kane on a
join the
lot of
Discord if you want to
things,
talk
but
about
his
any of this
channel is
stuff.
very
All of the
interesting.
links there will be in the
So,
description.
would
Okay then,
subscribe to them.
so let's get back to it. So that's deprivationism. There is, however, a very serious objection to deprivationism. I mentioned that Epicurus can be interpreted as forwarding at least two arguments. Now it's time to turn to the second argument, which I will call the existence argument. So the idea here is that in order for something to be bad for a person, that person must exist at the time at which the bad thing occurs. But as Epicurus says, so long as we exist, death is not with us. But when death comes, then we do not exist. Death can't harm me when I'm alive, because when I'm alive, death hasn't happened. Death can't harm me once I'm dead, because at that point I'm not there. I no longer exist. So there's nobody to harm. I mean, yeah, we can develop this idea behind the existence argument by thinking, okay, so when exactly does the badness of death occur? Like, when does it happen? For most of the bad things that happen to us, we can specify a time when the badness is. Like, I fall down, I break my arm is broken. So like I break my arm at 2 o'clock on such and such a day, and then there's a period of my life where my arm is in a cast or whatever, where I'm experiencing pain. So we can sort of say, the bad thing starts at 2 o'clock and then it continues for however many weeks. Now, when it comes to death, like, okay, what do we say there? I mean, the most natural answer is that the badness of death occurs as you die. Like, so okay, Owen Luder is dead. His death is bad for him after he dies. We can immediately see there's something fishy about this, because we're attributing a harm to someone who no longer exists, right? Like, it's as if Owen Luder is this non-existent object to whom good or bad things might happen. But of course, the point is, I mean, it's like, no, he's just not there anymore. Nothing can happen to him one way or the other. So I mean, that's one sort of general issue here. So to state the argument a bit more formally, then, this is how Stephen Rosenbaum, in his article "How to Be Dead and Not Care," puts the argument. Premise 1. A state of affairs is bad for a person P only if P can experience it at some time. Premise 2. So P's being dead is bad for P only if it is a state of affairs that P can experience at some time. Premise 3. P's being dead is not a state of affairs that P can experience at some time. Conclusion. So P's being dead is not bad for P. Premise 2 here follows from premise 1. Premise 3 is uncontroversial. You can experience only those things that happen before you die. And being dead does not happen before you die. Together, the premises entail the conclusion. So the controversial premise here is premise 1. It's important to clarify premise 1, because it might seem that this premise is, again, assuming hedonism. It's assuming that well-being is, maybe just a matter of what I experience, just a matter of pleasure and pain. We've already seen a serious objection to these accounts of well-being with the case of Verity and Delia. Verity doesn't experience Delia's infidelity, but seems to be made worse off by it. Note, however, that premise
This
one
is
says
pretty
not that a person must experience a state of
Benatar
affairs in order for it to be
would
bad,
deny
merely that a
premise
person
one.
can experience that state of affairs. Something can be bad for me only if it's possible for me to experience it at
I
some
would
time.
accept
Well,
premise
that deals with the infidelity case.
one.
Perhaps Verity never discovers Delia's betrayal. Even so, Delia's betrayal can still be bad for Verity under premise one, because Verity could discover it and could suffer as a result. So premise one can be accepted under other accounts of well-being. In any case, we could actually weaken all of this, because we could say that a state of affairs is bad for a person P only if P can be affected by it at some time. You don't need to frame it in terms of experiences. Even under that framing, the argument still goes through. But anyway, look. So premise one, or something like premise one, seems pretty plausible. Suppose you're not able to taste anything. Well, in that case, foul-tasting food is not going to harm you, at least not in virtue of producing a foul taste. Why? Right? Why is it not bad? Well, because you can't experience it. Since you don't have the sense of taste, you are insulated, as it were, from unpleasant gustatory experiences. And examples like that can be multiplied indefinitely. Now, of course, at this point, a deprivationist will say, well, hey, if I can taste things and then I lose my sense of taste, that seems like a harm. So yes, if I lose my sense of taste, I will be insulated from the unpleasant gustatory experiences. But we can still regret the many pleasant experiences that are now cut off from me. And if I knew that I was going to lose my sense of taste in the future, that seems like it would be reasonable to fear that. Okay, so that's all fair enough. But notice, however, that on dying, it's not quite true that I lose anything. I mean, it's not that I have some property or some capability and then I lose it and I have to experience the consequences of losing it. So, when I die, there is, in a sense, a deprivation, because various properties and capabilities that I have will indeed be lost. But those properties and capabilities are lost in virtue of the fact that I cease to be. So it's not me that loses them. When I'm dead, I can't gain or lose anything. So yes, there is a deprivation, but I am not affected by the deprivation. And that's the key point. And so here's the challenge then to deprivationism. What is it that makes losses bad? Well, the fact that we're affected by them, the fact that we experience them. So as Rosenbaum points out, the typical situation with losses is, and I quote, a person P loses good G only if there is a time at which P has G, and there is a later time at which P does not have G. And it's this latter state that's problematic. So the state of not having the good, the later time at which P does not have G. That's what's problematic. During my life, I will find that I am deprived of various goods. There are many things I don't have that would make my life go better if I had them. If I lose my sense of taste, or even if I just never had the sense of taste in the first place, then I might think, I'm deprived of the ability to taste pleasant food. And what a shame that is. It prevents me from experiencing these pleasures. I have the property of lacking the ability to taste pleasant food. And that makes me worse off relative to people who can taste pleasant food. Death is different. When I die, I cease to exist. So it can't be said that I'm in a state where I do not have the various goods associated with life. I'm not in any kind of state. I don't instantiate any properties. I don't exist. It makes sense to say that an existing person can have goods or be deprived of goods. Once a person ceases to exist, they can neither have anything nor be deprived of anything. So for any good thing, once a person ceases to exist, there is no time at which that person does not have that good. I lose a good only if there's a time in which I have the good and a later time in which I don't have the good. Once I die, it's true that various goods are lost, but there's no time at which I don't have those goods. I am not deprived of those goods. So deprivation cannot be what makes death bad. I mean, the general point here is there is a difference, so the argument goes, or so Rosenbaum argues anyway, there is an important difference between ordinary loss and the kind of loss that's involved in death. Speaking colloquially, we might well say, oh yeah, when I'm dead, I'll be deprived of everything, right? Yes. I mean, that's true in some sense, right? All of the positive qualities of my life are extinguished. As the Epicurean sees it, though, this is a somewhat misleading way to put it. Once I'm dead, I am not deprived of anything, because I'm not there at all. It's true that with my death, various things will be lost, but it can't be me that sustains any of those losses. I cannot be the subject of any of those losses. And so that means that those losses cannot make me worse off. So that's the argument. That's the Epicurean argument for the claim that death is not bad. All right, well, we've examined two classic arguments from Epicurus. A final ancient argument against the harm thesis comes from Lucretius. This is the symmetry argument, and here's how Lucretius puts it. He says, look back now and consider how the bygone ages of eternity that elapsed before our birth were nothing to us. Here then is a mirror in which nature shows us the time to come after our death. Do you see anything fearful in it? Do you perceive anything grim? Does it not appear more peaceful than the deepest sleep? So when you cast your mind back over the many billions of years before your birth, consider the wars, the violence, all of the oppression and misery in human history, well, it's nothing to you. You weren't there. None of it harmed you. Maybe the universe has always existed. Maybe there's been an infinite time before your birth. That eternal nothingness before your birth. Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother you. But that's exactly what you should expect when you die. Eternal nothingness. It's going to be just like before you were born. But you're not bothered by how it was like before you were born. So there's nothing to bother you in what's coming when you die. Okay, so the argument might be put like this. Premise 1, prenatal non-existence and posthumous non-existence are the same in all relevant respects. So in all respects relevant to the value of these conditions. Premise 2, so if posthumous non-existence is bad, then prenatal non-existence is bad. Premise 3, but prenatal non-existence is not bad. So, conclusion, posthumous non-existence is not bad. Prenatal non-existence and posthumous non-existence are the same in all relevant respects. They have the same intrinsic properties. If non-existence is bad, my non-existence prior to my birth is bad, but of course that doesn't concern me. So I shouldn't be concerned about death, about non-existence when I die. Okay, what might we say to this? Well, I mean, there are two options that we can take in response here. The first option is to affirm the symmetry, to say that prenatal non-existence and posthumous non-existence are symmetrical, but then we might hold that prenatal non-existence is bad. The second option, of course, is to deny the symmetry, to say there's something about posthumous non-existence that makes it bad, whereas prenatal non-existence is not. All right, let's consider the first option. So we accept that prenatal and posthumous non-existence are symmetrical, but we hold that prenatal non-existence is bad. Prenatal non-existence is also bad, contrary to how we might normally think about this. So, okay, a crucial move here is that we have to distinguish the question of whether something is bad from the question of whether it is reasonable to fear something. So we do not fear prenatal non-existence, and indeed it would seem rather absurd for somebody to fear prenatal non-existence. But it doesn't follow from this that prenatal non-existence is not bad. There may be other reasons why it would be irrational to fear it. So here's another explanation, right? Another explanation is this: prenatal non-existence is in the past, and just in general, we don't fear things that are in the past. I've experienced many unpleasant things in my life that I certainly would not want to experience in the future, but I no longer fear them. I've had panic attacks in the past. If you told me that I was going to have a panic attack later today, I'd be quite worried about it. But all the panic attacks I had in the past, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's in the past. In general, so just in general, the way that fear works is fear is directed to or is a response to bad things that are coming. You don't fear stuff that's happened in the past. So that's why we don't fear prenatal non-existence. But prenatal non-existence may well still be bad. So, I mean, just to maybe illustrate this a bit further, here's a famous case from Derek Parfit. You are in hospital. You're about to have life-saving surgery. Unfortunately, you are unable to receive anesthetic, maybe because you have an allergy to the anesthetic drugs. However, the doctors are able to give you an amnesia drug. You're going to have the surgery, and you're going to experience excruciating pain. But luckily, you're going to have this amnesia drug afterwards, so you'll forget it. You'll forget the experience. Now, let's say that while you're waiting in the hospital, you drift off to sleep, okay? And then you find yourself waking up on a hospital bed. At this point, you realize there's two possibilities. Possibility A is that the surgery has already happened.
Well, that's bad because there was an experience, and given the eternal stain principle, you can't undo the past. But the thing about not existing is just you don't exist. There's not an experience to essentially have had occurred to be bad at one point, even if you forget it.
Drug and you've forgotten about it. Possibility B, the surgery's coming. You're about to be taken into the theatre. Now, which option do you prefer? I mean, the same sequence of events is going to occur regardless of whether it's the past or the future, right? The same excruciating pain is going to happen. But you probably have a very strong preference for the first option. So that's the case for most people, right? You're going to hope that the surgery has already happened. So in general, if bad things are going to occur, we prefer them to have occurred in the past. We want to have good things to look forward to. The fact that it's irrational that it would be irrational to fear our prenatal non-existence does not show that it is not bad. Okay, well that still leaves us with the question of, well, what exactly is the harm of prenatal non-existence? Well, from a deprivationist point of view, it looks like we can give a fairly straightforward answer here. From a deprivationist point of view, we might frame the harm of prenatal non-existence this way: the fact that I wasn't born earlier deprived me of various goods. Had I been born earlier, I would have experienced various goods that I did not in fact experience. Any delay in being born involves the loss of life that I otherwise would have had. I would have been better off had I come into existence earlier. Now, it's important to be clear about exactly what is being claimed in this argument. when we imagine a person coming into existence
Well,
earlier, we
that's
usually hold fixed the average human life expectancy. So
possible
I say, well,
because U is a configuration of memories, which means everything would have to be played out earlier, which is an impossibility. So having an impossibility, I mean, sure, you can say it's better that an impossible thing would occur. Like, I guess it's better if nothing in the universe felt pain right now, which is impossible given the nature of evolution. But
you know, if I had been born in 1330, I probably would have died around the 1400s. If I was lucky, of course. I mean, given the extremely high child mortality rates at the time, maybe I would have died in like 1340 instead. But anyway, the point is, in that sense, obviously, being born earlier would not bring any particular benefit. I'm not worse off for existing now rather than existing in the past. Obviously, this is the wrong way to interpret this argument. Instead, what we have to think of is we have to think of taking a person's lifespan, taking their actual lifeline, and then just extending it into the past while holding the date of their death fixed. Owen Luder was born in 1928 and died in 2021. Hold the date of his death fixed at 2021. Now imagine starting his life earlier, say in 1828. Assuming he has about the same quality of life, so you know, holding other things equal, I mean, isn't this additional 100 years much better? So Owen Luder would have been better off had he lived from 1828 to 2021. Well, that seems perfectly plausible, but in that case, prenatal non-existence is bad. The fact that he was born in 1928 rather than 1828 made him worse off, made his life much worse off. So it's bad. It harmed him. So Thomas Nagel raises a famous objection to this kind of deprivationist account of prenatal harm. Although Nagel defends a deprivationist account of the harm of death overall, he raises an objection to this account of prenatal, the harm of prenatal non-existence. So he puts it this way. He says, and I quote, "We cannot say that the time prior to a man's birth is a time in which he would have lived had he been born then, but not had he been born not then, but earlier. He could not have been born earlier. Anyone born substantially earlier than he would have been someone else. Therefore, the time prior to his birth is not the time in which his subsequent birth prevents him from living." So
I have
Owen
not
Luder
watched
could
this
not have
video
been born earlier
beforehand.
because any person born
Me
substantially
and
earlier would have
Nagel
been
just
somebody else. It
vibe.
wouldn't have been him. So it can't harm Owen Luder that he was born in 1928 rather than 1828. We can't say Owen Luder would have been better off had he been born in 1828 because he
Wouldn't
couldn't have
be
been born in
nice.
1828. The alternative to being born in 1928 is not a better life for Owen Luder. It's no life at all. He just wouldn't have come into existence. On the other hand, Owen Luder could have died later than he actually did. So the idea is that the time of a person's birth is essential to their identity. The time of a person's death is not. So we kind of have to you kind of have to hold fixed the time of a person's birth. But given that a person has been born, there's an open future, right? They might die when they're 10, they might die when they're 100. Okay, so right. I mean, one question here is, well, is it true that a person could not have been born earlier? Is it true that my time of birth is an essential property of me? I mean, that's probably going to depend on our account of personal identity, but let's just grant that for the sake of argument. So we will grant that the time of a person's birth is an essential property of is essential to their identity. Okay, so what that means is that when we try to compare Owen Luder's actual life with the life Owen Luder would have had were he born 100 years earlier, we have a counterfactual with an impossible antecedent. The counterfactual is, if Owen Luder had lived from 1828 to 2021, he would have been better off. And again, we're assuming that the antecedent is impossible. Owen Luder could not have been born in 1828. Then the assumption here must be that counterfactuals with impossible antecedents cannot be evaluated. I mean, on the standard view, counterfactuals with impossible antecedents are all vacuously true. So now, certainly, counterfactuals with impossible antecedents raise trouble for the standard tools that we have for analyzing counterfactuals. So the most famous account of semantics for counterfactuals is what's known as the Stallnaker-Lewis possible world semantics. And basically the idea here is, on this account, the counterfactual, if P had been, then Q would have been. That counterfactual is true just in case in the closest possible worlds where P is true, Q is true. So if you take the counterfactual, if I had dropped the glass, then it would have shattered. How do we evaluate this? Well, the idea is we consider those possible worlds that have the same laws of nature as ours, that have the same history as ours, up to the point at which I'm carrying the glass. And then imagine making a slight change so that I drop the glass. And then you play out what happens. The idea is that, yeah, I mean, in those worlds, right, in those close worlds, the worlds with the same laws and the same history and so on, in those closest possible worlds, when I drop the glass from such a height, it hits the floor and it shatters. The counterfactual is true because in the closest worlds in which I do drop the glass shatters. Okay, that's the, again, standard account of counterfactuals. And the trouble is, when a counterfactual has an impossible antecedent, there are no worlds where the antecedent is true. There are no, like if P is impossible, then clearly there are no possible worlds where P is true. So there are no worlds where Owen Luder is born in 1828. So all counterfactuals with this antecedent, they just come out as being vacuously true. But it's, we can't, like, all of them, whether we say if Owen Luder had lived from 1828 to 2021, he would have been better off. True, vacuously true. If Owen Luder had lived from 1828 to 2021, he would have been worse off. Again, vacuously true. So basically, we just can't evaluate these sorts of counterfactuals. Okay, so that's that problem. Of course, by contrast, there are worlds where Owen Luder lives longer than he actually did, right? So we can say, well, if Owen Luder had lived from 1928 to 2023, he would have been better off, right? That's fine. So this is the claim, right? Like there's some problem with evaluating these counterfactuals with impossible antecedents. The issue here is that, well, it seems like, I mean, so we might well argue that all this shows is that the standard semantics for counterfactuals is incomplete, or it needs modification, because it does seem as though we're able to assess counterfactuals with impossible antecedents. Here's a famous example. So compare these two counterfactuals. Number one, if Thomas Hobbes had squared the circle, he would have solved world poverty. Number two, if Thomas Hobbes had squared the circle, people in Africa would not have cared. The first counterfactual, number one, seems just false. Why? Well, because while mathematical proofs are impressive, they're just not the sorts of things that solve world poverty. There's no relevant connection between giving a mathematical proof and the kinds of social policies that would deal with poverty. By contrast, the second counterfactual seems true. Given the social organization at the time, people in Africa wouldn't even have heard of Hobbes' squaring the circle. They wouldn't know about Hobbes, so of course they wouldn't care. I mean, so look, it would require a whole other video to get into this, but there are proposals for how to deal with the semantics of counterfactuals with impossible antecedents. I mean, this is a whole thing. So with that in mind, then, I mean, in the case of the counterfactual about Owen Luder, I mean, what we're asking is essentially whether it's better to have more life or less life, other things being equal. As far as the deprivationist is concerned, more is better. And more is better whether the more happens in the past or happens in the future. It may well be impossible for me to have existed earlier, but still, if this impossibility were realized somehow, I would be better off. Okay. Another possible response to Lucretius's argument, to his symmetry argument, is to deny the symmetry. So we might well say that prenatal non-existence and posthumous non-existence are relevantly different. Okay, so how might we make this claim? Well, one thing we might say is, okay, what exactly is it that awaits me in the future? I mean, it's not simply non-existence; it's permanent non-existence. Non-existence in itself is not particularly troubling. Suppose I were to cease to exist for a period of time, but then come into existence again. Some people might argue that this happens every night when I go to sleep. I mean, if personal identity is a matter of continuous conscious experience and conscious experience ceases during sleep, something like that, maybe I pop in and out of existence if during sleep conscious experience ceases. The problem with death is that once I die, I'm not coming back. But in that case, there is an important asymmetry with my prenatal non-existence. I did not exist for some time before I was born, but then I started existing. So that's the difference. That's the asymmetry. Does this work? Well, here's a couple of possible responses. One response, perhaps Lucretius could say, well, look, if there's nothing bad about non-existence in itself, what could be bad about the non-existence being permanent? So, 10 years of non-existence, that's fine. 1 billion years of non-existence, that's fine. Graham's number of years of non-existence, that's fine. None is worse than the other. So a state that in itself is not bad becomes bad just by extending it forever. I mean, that seems odd, especially given that nothing changes about the state. So okay, I'm going to die soon. Hopefully not too soon, but relatively soon in cosmic time. Okay, so my non-existence in the year 3000, that's not bad. And even I would admit that's not bad, right? In itself, me not existing in the year 3000, not bad. Me not existing in the year 5 billion, not bad. Me not existing in the year, plug in any finite number at all, that's not bad. So for any finite number you select, my non-existence of that year is not bad for me. So how does it become bad then? Like, at what point does it become bad? There doesn't seem to be a point here. No matter how far you continue going into the future, there's no point at which anything relevant changes. Okay, there's nothing that there's no difference, right? So it seems like there's just nothing that could make this bad. There's no point at which this neutral state becomes a bad state. It's not as though my non-existence is going to change. I mean, lots of things are going to be changing. Lots of things are happening in the universe, but the fact that I'm just not there anymore. Okay, once I die, that's it. I'm just not there anymore, and that just stays the same. So if that's not bad in the year 3000, it's not bad in the year 5 billion, it's not bad in any finite number. Why does it become bad when we say, okay, it's permanent? That seems, again, it just seems odd, right? So that might be one kind of challenge, right? Is, okay, explain how it becomes bad. Another point Lucretius might make is, while it's true that prenatal non-existence is followed by existence, that's not a feature of prenatal non-existence in itself. It's not an intrinsic property of prenatal non-existence. So, I mean, really, it's like when we're asking to identify a relevant difference between posthumous non-existence and prenatal non-existence, we're saying, well, prenatal non-existence was followed by existence, but that's not a difference between posthumous non-existence and prenatal non-existence. All we're doing there is we're just pointing to a different state, right? Like, my existence is just a different state of affairs that follows the state of affairs of me not existing prior to a certain time. The point is, when I consider the time in the past at which I didn't exist, there's nothing bad about that. And that time when I didn't exist is symmetrical. It does share all of the same features with the time when I won't exist in the future. I mean, maybe we could bring out this point a bit further by considering not the time before my birth, but people who just never come into existence. My mother could have gotten pregnant a third time. She might have given birth to a sister, my sister, but she didn't. So, you know, there is some possible world where I have a sister. Okay, so is my merely hypothetical sister harmed in any way by the fact that she failed to come into existence? Has something bad befallen her? Well, surely not. But her non-existence has not been followed by existence. So, you know, and so this might show that actually no, prenatal non-existence is symmetrical in the relevant respects with postnatal non-existence, in which case the symmetry claim stands. All right then, before ending, I want to consider a final question here. What are the consequences of denying the harm thesis? So we've just seen three arguments to the effect that the harm thesis is false, that death is not bad for the person who dies. So suppose we accept this. Suppose we say with the Epicureans that death is never bad for those who die. Well, good news. The good news here is death is nothing to fear. If the Epicurean arguments are successful, we are freed from our anxiety about our inevitable deaths. But there are some strange results of this view. So, for example, we normally take it that murder is a particularly awful crime. But provided the victim is killed painlessly, it's not going to be bad for them. So we might argue, well, maybe what makes murder bad is the loss to those who know and love the victim. I mean, obviously, you know, if somebody murders my brother, that's going to affect me very greatly. And so that's, you know, I'm going to experience a great loss. So, you know, maybe that's what makes murder bad. So, okay, we can just suppose that the victim is a hermit who's lived alone for decades. Nobody else even knows they exist. Well, in that case, if the Epicurean is right, nobody is harmed. Nothing bad is done. There's no bad outcome if the hermit is painlessly killed. And that just seems outrageous. And, you know, look, there are various things we're inclined to say here. You say, well, you know, the hermit doesn't want to die. By killing him, you're frustrating many of his central desires. Similarly, there are many potential goods in his future that you will deprive him of if you kill him, and so on. The trouble, of course, is that if any of these ideas work as an explanation of why it's bad for the hermit to be killed, well, it looks like they also entail that it's bad for the hermit to die. You know, so by killing the hermit, you're frustrating many of his desires. Yeah, but by dying, many of his desires are being frustrated. So, you know. Okay, another counterintuitive consequence of the Epicurean view is we're often inclined to say that some deaths are worse than others. So, you know, we might say dying at 80 is bad, dying at 18, that is just an utter tragedy. But for the Epicureans, it seems that there isn't anything that could make an early death worse than a later death. I mean, again, if we try to appeal to things like the loss of potential life or all of the positive goods that the 18-year-old could have experienced, well, then that's just going to entail that death in general is bad. That's just going to play into the hands of the deprivationist account. Moreover, we sometimes want to say that a death might be good for the person who dies, or at least better than their continued existence. For a person with a severe disease who has only a future of extreme suffering, death might seem to be a welcome release. But the same reasoning that leads us to the conclusion that death is not bad will also lead to the conclusion that death is not good. There are no positive sensations in death. After death, there is no existing subject who could be the bearer of the good. And of course, there was nothing good in prenatal non-existence. Death might bring suffering to an end, but, you know, strictly speaking, there is no person who is freed from suffering. There is no subject there who can have the property of being released from suffering. So, I mean, the point of all of this is just the Epicurean view is often presented as a way of freeing ourselves from anxiety about death, and maybe it does that, but arguably, accepting the Epicurean view will lead to fairly radical changes in our moral framework in general. It doesn't only bring about freedom from anxiety, or so we might argue. And with that, that is all I have to say. That is an introduction to the Epicurean case that death is not bad, and at least not bad for the person who dies. And that's all for today. So thanks for watching. Goodbye, everybody. We're often inclined to say, it's harmed, nothing bad is done, there's no bad outcome if the hermit is painlessly killed. And that just seems outrageous. And, you know, look, there are various things we're inclined to say here. We say, well, you know, the hermit doesn't want to die. By killing him, you're frustrating many of his central desires. Similarly, there are many potential goods in his future that you will deprive him of if you kill him, and so on. The trouble, of course, is that if any of these ideas work as an explanation of why it's bad for the hermit to be killed, well, it looks like they also entail that it's bad for the hermit to die. You know, so by killing the hermit, you're frustrating many of his desires. Yeah, but by dying, many of his desires are being frustrated. So, you know. Okay, another counterintuitive consequence of the Epicurean view is we're often inclined to say that some deaths are worse than others. So, you know, we might say dying at 80 is bad, dying at 18, that is just an utter tragedy.
I don't think death at different points or different deaths are bad.
There isn't anything that could make an early death worse than a later death. I mean, again, if we try to appeal to things like the loss of potential life or all of the positive goods that the 18-year-old could have experienced, well, then that's just going to entail that death in general is bad. That's just going to play into the hands of the deprivationist account. Moreover, we sometimes want to say that a death might be good for the person who dies, or at least better than their continued existence. For a person with a severe disease who has only a future of extreme suffering, death might seem to be a welcome release. But the same reasoning that leads us to the conclusion that death is not bad will also lead to the conclusion that death is not good. There are no positive sensations in death. After death, there is no existing subject who could be the bearer of the good. And of course, there is nothing good in prenatal non-existence. Death might bring suffering to an end, but strictly speaking, there is no person who is freed from suffering. There is no subject there who can have the property of being released from suffering. So, I mean, the point of all of this is just the Epicurean view is often presented as a way of freeing ourselves from anxiety about death, and maybe it does that, but arguably, accepting the Epicurean view will lead to fairly radical changes in our moral framework in general. It doesn't only bring about freedom from anxiety, or so we might argue. And with that, that is all I have to say. That is an introduction to the.
For the same reason, death cannot be bad. It cannot be good. There is no one who could be a bearer of the good. Suffering. Yeah, I suppose. But I still say, like, compare it. I mean, yeah, I suppose. Like, the death itself is just an inaction, so it's not like the death is good. But I'd say the absence of experience in comparison to a negative experience is a good, like, comparatively speaking. It's not good in itself, per se. Like, death isn't never going to be good or bad. But it's going to, essentially, the lack of experience is comparatively a good. Like, it's a better thing, like, from a utilitarian standpoint. Like, even no one's experiencing the difference, there is, like, less pain going on in the universe from that point forward, which is, from a utilitarian assessment, a good thing.
The Epicurean case that death is not bad, and at least not bad for the person who dies. And that's all for today. So thanks for watching. Goodbye, everybody.
Interesting video. I mean, not really. I kind of knew all that, but interesting video. Oh, somebody's coming towards me. I'm bored, right? I kind of want to know what Benedict has to say.
What happens when we die? This might be the most important question ever. This might be the most important question that a person can ask themselves. What really happens when this is all over? This is a very important question to people that have suffered. If you have suffered in this world, you really want to know what happens when this is all over, because you don't want to suffer again. You were born into a world that you do not understand, brought into this world by people who do not understand it. That's really unfair. It really amazes me that people feel like having children is a good thing. Like, what's wrong with people? Listen, you don't know what the heck is going on at all. You can see that there's a lot of weird shit that is happening in this world, and you decide to have children. What the fuck is wrong with people, man? Come on, like, think. You are conscious. You're not an animal. You're not a robot. You gotta think. You have no clue what is going on. That should make you suspicious. That should make you suspicious. Why is it that you don't know what is going on? You found yourself in a world that you do not understand. And it's not only you that doesn't understand this world. It's everyone that's in it. And you decide that you're going to bring another person into this world, into a world that you don't control, into a world that you don't understand, into a world that's full of... Come on, man. You people got to think, like, this is weird. Life is a weird treat, man. It's full of idiots. It's full of people who don't think. It's crazy. You people got to think, man. What the fuck is wrong with people? Like, you scare me, man. Like, the level of stupidity that's going on in this world scares me. That's one of the biggest reasons why I would never want to come back into this world. Because people are fucking idiots. Let's do things that actually make sense. Let's do things that we can actually explain. You can't be bringing people into a world that you don't understand and force them to live in this world. And when some of them say, you know what, I'm tired, I went out. Like, nah, you mentally... You people... You motherfuckers... Like, I'm mad today, man. This is a fucking cult. You people are stupid. Fuck out of here. Like, think. Listen, you bring a person into a world without their fucking consent. You live in this world, and they say, you know what, I can't take it anymore. This world is crazy, and it is crazy. Don't lie to people. This world is fucking crazy, right? It is fucking crazy. It's hard. Life is not easy in this world, man. Stop lying to people. This is not easy. This is far from easy, right? So you bring a person into this world, they suffer and suffer, and they say, you know what? I'm tired, right? I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Can I be assisted to exit this realm? The motherfuckers act like that person is mentally sick. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you see that you are the ones that are mentally sick? Fuck out of here, man. Let's stop. You know what, man? If you're an internationalist, if you're conscious enough to understand what I'm saying, let's stop allowing stupid people to control us. Let's stop allowing stupid people to control the world. Fuck out of here, man. Yesterday I was with this other girl telling me about Jesus. I was sent by Jesus. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not gonna allow this insanity to continue. That shit doesn't exist. Jesus doesn't exist. The Bible isn't true. Stop being stupid. She was mad at me. But I'm done with allowing stupidity to continue.
Fucking same.
No, seriously, man. Let's stop. You know, when people in this world feel like a person is
just call
crazy,
them idiots. Walk away or call them
an
an
idiot. When people in this world feel like a person is crazy, they put that person in a lunatic asylum and control the person because they think that the person is crazy. They don't respect that person. I feel like these people are crazy. People that be believing in religions. So I'm not gonna like treat them with that much respect anymore. Fuck it, man. I'm done. You know, because what they do, they indoctrinate children, force them to believe things that don't make any fucking sense. They force intelligent people to believe in bullshit, and if these people don't believe in the bullshit that they want to make them believe, they hate them or they mistreat them, blackmail them. Oh, you're gonna go to hell because you don't believe in my bullshit. Do you understand how fucked up that is? So you bring a child into this world and you force them to believe nonsense and you tell them that they don't believe. You motherfuckers are stupid, man. Fuck out of here. Do you understand how wrong that is? You bring a person into a world without their consent and you want them to believe things that don't make any sense. You have to understand that your religions make no sense. If you're intelligent, you know that your religions don't make any fucking sense. So these intelligent people are in a world that they don't understand. And I told, yo, if you don't believe in the religion that I believe in, you're gonna burn in hell for eternity. Do you understand how wrong that is? So you brought a person without their consent, right? Into a world that they didn't ask to be born into at all. And now you be telling them that if they don't believe in the bullshit, they're gonna go to hell. Why did you even bring them here in the first fucking place? Why gamble with someone's life? Do you understand how retarded that is? Can you imagine if I took a person that I love to a place where I know that it is possible that the most horrible shit can happen to them, and I tell them, you know, here's how you live in this place. Do this, do that. Tell them to do things that don't make any sense. If you don't do these things, you're going to suffer like crazy. You're going to suffer like crazy. Wouldn't I be like the worst human ever? You people are stupid, man. I hate y'all for being stupid. Stop being stupid, man. Stop indoctrinating children. You know, allow children to thrive. If you're going to bring someone into this world, at least allow them to thrive. Allow them to be themselves. You know, don't force them to be like you. Don't force them to be as stupid as you are. You are retarded. Don't force your children to be retarded. Allow them to be themselves. Allow them to grow. Allow them to evolve. We can't still be thinking like fucking animals, man. Yeah, today I want to talk about what I think happens when this is all over. When this nonsense is all over. Because we don't want to do this forever, man. You know? This world is weird. Life is such a weird trip. Any person that is truly intelligent wouldn't want to do this forever. They wouldn't even want to do this at all, you know? I don't encourage people to exit. You know, we're here. Let's try to do the right thing. Let's try to make people wake up, you know, because we're already here. Why not try to do something that's positive? Don't just exit. You know, I was having a conversation with someone on Instagram. They were telling me that they don't feel like they can go on anymore. And I was like, okay, listen. I want you to get this. This is super important to understand. You are in this fucking realm, this weird realm, and you feel like you can't go on anymore and you want to exit. So, here's what you must understand. Here's what you must understand. You're still here, right? And you don't want to go anymore. That means that you don't love this reality. That means that you don't take this reality seriously. Why don't you just become yourself 100% and do exactly what you want to do? Like, you know, listen, man. Pretend as if you're dead and just live your life. Allow these fucking idiots to judge you. Allow these NPCs to judge you. And that's it. Live your life the way that you want to live it. Do the craziest shit. Be real. And if you're going to exit,
I kind of disagree.
That I don't encourage people to exit.
As an utilitarian, I disagree. You're gonna live your life.
Try to do something that's gonna
value.
Make you famous. That's gonna make people like know what you believe in. People just be exiting, man. Like we don't even get to know what they think. That's
live.
I'm sorry if you're an internationalist because you want to agree with me, but I feel it's selfish to just exit without. Listen, if I was gonna exit, I was gonna make sure that the whole world knows my name. And they know what I believe in. It would be more like a sacrifice. I'm not going to exit. I don't encourage anyone to exit, but I'm just trying to like make you understand something. I was going to make sure that the whole world knows my name. I'm going to make sure that the whole world knows exactly what I believe in. I'll do something fucking crazy, man, so that people get to know me and know what I believe in, know the truth. You know, you don't just fucking exit. What the fuck? I'm sorry if you're an internationalist, but you want to agree with me. When I say this, it's just kind of selfish. Like, it's over. It's already over, man. So at least do something that You know, that's gonna get people talking. That's gonna make people understand what you believe in. You know, when Jesus died, that's bullshit, right? This story of Jesus is bullshit, but there's something that you can learn from it. When Jesus died, God crucified, allowed himself to be crucified because he wanted the whole world to know what he believes. You know, he believed he was the Son of God, and he allowed all the bullshit to happen. He knew it was gonna get it was gonna get crucified. Did I say baptized instead of crucified? He knew that it was gonna get crucified. He knew that, but he allowed that to happen so that the whole world will know what the fuck is going on. You don't just out of nowhere just exit and no one gets to know, you know, why you did that and all that. But like I said, I don't encourage anyone to exit. I encourage people to be real. Just become more real. Whenever you feel like you want to exit, become more real. Exit this shit mentally, you know? Exit this fucking matrix mentally. You know, stop loving the things that you used to love. Don't even love anything about this world. This world is evil. This realm is evil, man. You know, don't let anyone lie to you. This realm is evil. This realm is stupid. And people are just stupid for even making more people. It's the most retarded shit ever, man. You can't be creating people if most of them are suffering and you think that you're doing the right thing. You're giving someone a gift. What gift? Motherfucker, this is hard. This shit is not easy, man. We're living, man, what the fuck is wrong with people? Like, we're not okay, bro. We're not fucking okay. People are not okay. They're just lying. They're lying to you. They're lying to everyone. And you believe that people are fucking happy. People are not happy in this realm, bro.
I'm
Just
not
pretending
happy.
to be happy. There's only a few people that are actually doing well, that might actually be happy. People that be controlling everything. You know, people that have everything. You have nothing. You're struggling every day. You're working a 9-to-5 job that you do not like, with people that you do not like. You have to take care of your children that didn't even ask to be born. Why give yourself that kind of responsibility? Why are you so arrogant?
I fucking hated it.
Why are you so confident that that's the right thing to do? It makes no sense. It's not justifiable in any way, shape, or form. There isn't a person in this world that will be able to justify that. It's not justifiable. It's stupid. And I'm sorry for saying this, but you're stupid if you think that having children is a good thing. I'm not saying that people who have had children are stupid. I'm saying if you think it is a good thing, you're stupid. If you think that I'm wrong, you're stupid. That's the only reason why you think that I'm wrong. There's no other reason why you think that I'm wrong. You gotta think, man. We can't keep on bringing innocent people into a realm that is this fucked up, and we're not even doing anything to change this world. And we can't. I know that we can't really change this world, but what the fuck are we doing? We're perpetuating our own enslavement, making things worse for the next generation, and they have to suffer. Look at what's happening in South Africa. There's what we call load shedding. We didn't cause that. It's the people that came before us. Black people that warn against the apartheid government. These are the people that are making us suffer now. They're doing the same shit. They're not doing the same shit actually that the people that started the apartheid government were doing. But it has the same outcome. We're suffering. We have no money. Things are just becoming worse, you know, in our country. And people are going to say, oh, look, we have improved because there's no apartheid anymore. Well, just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, you know? That's what happened. Slavery still exists. It's just that it's hidden now. If you're not intelligent enough to see the truth, you won't be able to see that slavery still exists, you know? They don't call it slavery anymore because human beings have realized that they don't want to be slaves. So they're like, you know what? Fine, let's just act like slavery isn't there anymore. These people are still gonna be slaves. Just like there's this other girl that I was dating. So I was telling her the other day that when we're dating, I used to tell her that, yo, I don't want us to be in a relationship. But we acted like we're in a relationship, right? Like we did everything that people that are in a relationship do. This reminds me of this other post that I saw on Facebook. It says, let's not be in a relationship, but let's do everything that people that are in a relationship do. So yeah, we were just doing things that people that are in a relationship do. So yeah, we were having a conversation about how our relationship was. And she was like, we kept on saying that we shouldn't be in a relationship, but we were in a relationship. We just didn't want to call it a relationship, you know? And it's the truth, because we did everything that people that are in a relationship do, but we didn't call it a relationship. So it kind of felt like we went in a relationship, but we were in a relationship. So it's like slavery. Slavery still exists because we're doing the same fucking shit that slaves used to do, but we don't call it slavery. So motherfucking idiots are going to think slavery doesn't exist anymore. Like, no, this shit is fucking worse now, bro. You motherfuckers are retarded, man. Like, if you don't see that slavery exists, you just fucking retarded. Slavery still exists, and that's not going to change. You know, this reality is fucked up, and it will always be fucked up. That's why many people are suffering, man. Never ever feel good when innocent people are suffering, people that didn't choose to be here, bro. Whenever I see people getting arrested for stealing, I'm like, these motherfuckers didn't ask to be here, and they have to have money to live in this fucking, you know, so what should they do? Well, hostages here, bro. When you're a hostage, you do whatever you can to fucking escape. You don't want to just chill and suffer, you see? So no one has a right to judge you. Why should you judge a person that is just trying to, you know, escape something? They're trying to escape suffering. They're trying to escape hunger. They're trying to escape pain. So they do whatever they can to escape that shit. because we live in a world that's full of that shit. You see where the problem is. So I don't even judge people for doing illegal shit. I'm like, hey, we live in a horrible world, man. People are trying to escape their suffering. People are trying to escape their pain. There are hostages. They do whatever they can to fucking escape. You can't judge anyone, man. I saw a video where this other guy was running away from cops and this dude helped the cops. Like, if that was me and I got caught because of that motherfucker, hey, I'm not going to tell you what I would do to him. I would understand that, okay, the cops are doing their job, but what the fuck are you doing? It's none of your business. You don't know why I'm being chased. So why help the cops? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what people be going through, man. Let's not be selfish. I know this is going to sound wrong, but it's still the truth. You don't help no cops, man. They're doing what they're doing. Unless, I mean, there are situations where you should help the cops. Because, you know, there are people that are really that horrible in the world. If you see someone doing something that is really that horrible, yeah, I get it. You know, some people are really that horrible. But if a person just, you know, is just running away from cops because they've done something that you might not really even know, just let them go, man. Focus on your
I
own
would
business.
agree with that. I mean,
You know, unless someone is being chased
not really.
by
I kind of agree more
people
on
that
law
you
and
think
order.
are, you know, that person has done something to, and that they're innocent, I guess. But
Well,
really,
at the
man,
same
learn to mind
time,
your
a
own
lot
business.
of petty
Learn to mind your own
crimes
business.
are.
People are going through the most in
Well,
this reality,
who
man.
fucking knows?
Nobody asked for this shit. Always remind yourself that nobody asked for this shit, and there are a lot of people that are here against their will. No, there are some humans that will tell you that, oh, life is a gift. You know what? I actually do believe we have NPCs in this world. You mustn't believe anything, everything. I mean, some people might be NPCs, man, telling you that the life is a gift. Life is, it's not a fucking gift. You know, maybe they're just trying to make you believe it's a gift. It's not a gift. It's never been a gift. A gift is something that you can return if you don't want. No, this is more like a. This is more like a burden. This is more like a burden. Life is not easy, man. Let's stop lying to ourselves. So yeah, people are born into this world that they do not understand, where they suffer like crazy. And ask themselves the most important question: what happens when this is all over? Do I gotta do this shit again in the next life? Do I get to exist again? Or death is really the end? Death is really final. There's this TV series that I like. It's called Atlanta. It might be my favorite TV series. I think. I mean, it's so brilliant, man. So brilliant. So this TV series is weird. Everything about it is weird. It's like the characters are living in their own world that's different from this world. It's weird, man. It's so brilliant, man. So brilliant. In the last episode, it was revealed to everyone that no, actually, the whole episode, in the whole season, I mean, all the episodes might have been someone's dream. The last episode is called "It Was All a Dream." We're shown that one of the characters used to enter a sensory deprivation tank and stay in it for like 30 minutes, and it would be hard for them to distinguish reality from dreams. Like they would not know when they're dreaming that they're dreaming, and nobody knows when they're dreaming that they are really dreaming. You know, no, don't let anyone lie to you. People don't know when they're dreaming. So yeah, he will not know when he's dreaming. He will not even know when he's awake. Sometimes you feel like he's still dreaming even when he's awake. So he watched Judge Judy. He said that Judge Judy was always on TV. So if he watches Judge Judy and she has a thick booty, it will mean that he's in a dream. If she looked normal, it will mean that he's in reality. It's more like what happened in the Inception movie, you know, the Erotorium that they used. So yeah, the whole series was weird. You know, Justin Bieber was black. No one was questioning that. It's more like a dream, really, because in a dream you don't question anything. You can have a dream that your mom is Justin Bieber and believe that shit. You believe the weirdest shit ever. You see how gullible your mind is. You believe anything. Sometimes I tell people when they tell me that they're depressed, I'm like, why do you think this shit is real? You know, stop like giving this fucking reality so much power, man. That's how it's able to torture you. Don't believe anything. Believe this might just be an illusion. This might just be a lie. It might just be a dream. Don't act like you know what the fuck is going on. People like to pretend as if they know what the fuck is going on. You don't know shit. This could really be a dream. So yeah. The last episode, this guy, his name was Derisis. The character was played by this guy, man. What is his name? It's like Keith. Like Keith or like Keith something. This guy is a great actor, man. This guy is a great actor. He's that guy that was on this Jordan Peele movie, man. Get Out. Yeah, it's Get Out. That guy that got kidnapped. I think it was the first guy that got kidnapped. The first black guy to get kidnapped. The guy that after someone, the main character took a photo of him because of the flash, he was able to come back. You know, because in that movie, they were able to like have this operation that like they were able to transfer consciousness into another person's body, but that person will be there. You know, they'll still be there and be conscious of what's going on, but they will not have power. You know, they'll not be able to do anything. So, but when you use a flesh, like when they say a flesh, they'll be able to come back. So yeah, that guy, if you watch Get Out, the thing is in this other new TV series, it's called Changeling. Yeah, I think it's called Changeling. I haven't watched it, but I know it's dope. You know, anything that the guy does is dope, man. So I know it's dope. He's like one of the best actors ever. He's that good. Yeah. So this character that he was playing, his name is Deris. Yeah. So yeah, in that episode, he was struggling to distinguish dream from reality. Sometimes he would think he's in the real world, but still, and then realize, and then wake up in his sensory deprivation tank and be like, oh shit, I'm still in a dream. It'll even get to a point where we'll do fucked up shit because he thinks he's still in a dream. Is this other part where he thought he was in a dream because something weird was happening? So like people were laughing, right? The people that he was with were laughing. So he was like, he went to this other lady that was laughing and he was like, wake up! And he didn't wake up. So he got kicked out of the place that he was in. He was in the place where where it would have a sensory, it would enter where there's a sensory deprivation thing. Yeah, I was in that place. So they kicked him out because they thought it was crazy. And he said, I thought it was a dream. That was why actually. I thought it was a dream. That's why I did that. And it turned out it was a dream because he later woke up. He was like, what the fuck? Woke up in a sensory deprivation tank. And he was like, what? So, yeah, later on in the episode, he stole a car. He stole a Maserati and went to save his friends. His friends were held hostage in this other restaurant. They were held hostage there, so he went there and saved them. Told them to get inside his Maserati, the Maserati, wasn't even his, and drove them home. So when they were home, they asked him, oh, where did you get the car from, man? And he said, I stole it. They're like, what? What do you mean, man? He's like, I stole it from the ballet. Like, no, you'll get in trouble for that. He said, I'm not worried about getting in trouble. I'm still in the tank. He was referring to the sensory deprivation tank. I'm still in the tank. They're like, no, you're not in the tank. He's like, no, I am. They're like, no, you're not in the tank. He's like, they're like, no, you're not in the tank. You're really here and we're really your friends. And he said, maybe it's just my dream and you're just in it. It always has been. And they were all shocked. Like, what the fuck? And they didn't say anything. Like, what do you say? The episode ended with him watching Judge Judy to see if he was dreaming. That is the best ending to a TV series ever. Like, there can never be a better ending. Even the way Inception ended wasn't as good as how Enclosure ended because we already knew that, you know, dude might have been dreaming. Like the thing is, Inception was just different. Like we knew what was going on, right? But with Atlanta, we didn't know. Like from the first episode until that last episode, we didn't really know that the character. Sometimes the things that were shown were one of these characters' dream. We didn't know, but with Inception, we knew that okay, sometimes they're dreaming, sometimes they're experiencing reality. There we didn't know, but it was weird. You know, there was Justin Bieber was black. Sometimes people would drive invisible cars, so you see something's weird. So, but we still didn't question anything. Just like when you're in a dream, it's the best ending to a TV series, man. Like it was so brilliant the way that series ended. Yeah, but he said something very interesting. He said maybe it's just my dream, and you're just in it. Always has been. Like that might really be the truth. My question to you is, why do you assume that this world is not a dream? Even though the only other reality that you've experienced is a dream. Whenever you're dreaming, you believe whatever happens, whatever bullshit happens. What if this is a dream? Why are you so certain that this is not a dream? Sometimes when I tell people that this might be a dream, they think I'm crazy. What the fuck? Why are you so sure that this is not a dream?
Difference.
Think about it. The only other reality that you've experienced.
Here's the thing: if it's a dream, it makes no difference. Really. So all that matters is the experience that you have, the negative and positive of it. If it's a dream, it's still bad. But all dreams and all memories, all fictional things that we imagine, come somewhat from a sense of the physical. You have to have some conceptual thing, like a dragon is a lizard mixed with a bird, you know, kind of like that. Like a giant is a person that's tall. I know a leprechaun is a very small Irish person that has the power of whatever and lives in a rainbow, which is something that exists. So all these things exist in reality, but we can like imagine them, and then you can dream of things, but they're based off of like fundamental existing like concepts like colors and structures and stuff like that. So when it comes down to it, like I don't know, I kind of got lost in my sauce.
Shit happens. What if this is a dream?
Yeah,
Why?
what if it's a dream? Yeah, when it comes down to it, even if this is a dream, that means there's a still base reality. It's not like we're like some god dreaming a reality or something like that. That means there's still like, it has to be like, it's like not some like solipsist silly thing where it's like we conjure everything. Because it's just like, and there's nothing else that exists but us. Like, if this is a dream, I mean, that means there still is a base reality. So, I mean, one, this is a silly ass dream. If it is, it's a really shitty one. It's a really shitty fucking silly ass dream. But two, dreams generally don't have consistency. So, I mean, unless this is like a dream that contains dreams that are shittier in quality, and dreams that contain dreams all within the super dream, like it just seems odd to me, but maybe it's possible. Then it kind of goes back to my 2 points of like, well, there's still a base reality, and the base reality still sucks because fundamentally dreams are based off of what reality is, and still the asymmetry argument would still apply. Maybe not the argument from pessimism, just of like there being more pain than pleasure, because it's possible that in base reality things just feel very slight versions of pain, and maybe there is more pleasure. So maybe there's actually like somewhat of a net positive, so to speak. The asymmetry argument still applies. It's not like it would really change the difference of antinatalism or anything. Like, you would still, if this is the dream, the base reality would still be unethical to reproduce in it. So it doesn't really change the nature of ethics in any way, whether this is a dream or not. So I don't see why it matters if this is a dream.
Why are you so certain that this is not a dream? Sometimes when I tell people that this might be a dream, they think I'm crazy. I'm like, the fuck? Why are you so sure that this is not a dream? Think about it. The only other reality that you've experienced has been in a dream. You dream every night. Even though you forget your dreams, sometimes you forget that you have dreamt, but I think you dream every night. I dream every night. Dream every night. And I always believe that I'm in the real world when I'm dreaming. This reality is able to fool me. Consciousness is able to fool itself all the time. So why do you assume that this is not a dream? Why do you assume that this shit is real? That's a very important question. If consciousness is able to fool itself into believing whatever it's experiencing is real, why do you think it's not fooling itself right now? Why are you so sure it's not fooling itself? People are gullible, man.
People have.
It makes a lot of sense
like
to believe that this is a dream.
dreams.
But I'm not saying this is a dream.
I don't. But
I just want to show you something.
I used to have dreams.
I just want to show you something.
It's a dream. So now I just don't really dream.
In order to understand what happens when we die, we must first understand what is fundamental. What's fundamental? Is matter fundamental? Is consciousness fundamental? Here's a very important question to ask yourself. If you want to understand the true nature of reality, you must understand what's fundamental. Is consciousness fundamental or matter is fundamental? Most people believe that matter is fundamental because, that's what seems obvious. It's obvious that matter is fundamental. It's obvious that consciousness came from matter. I mean, that's how things seem. But what if that is not the truth? What if you only believe that because that's how things seem, and you believing that is the reason why consciousness is able to fool itself all the time? It's the reason why when you're dreaming, you think you're not dreaming. Why is it that in your dreams, matter is there? Why does matter exist in your dream? Stones exist in your dream. If you pick a stone up, it will really be a stone. And if you throw it away, it's really going to be thrown away. Like, what happens in our dreams is what happens in this reality. So what makes you so sure that you're not dreaming right now? What makes you so sure that consciousness isn't fundamental? What if the truth is that consciousness is fundamental and it's all that exists and everything else is imaginary? What if consciousness is capable of doing that? I mean, it shows you that it's capable of doing that. It does that every night when you sleep, and you still believe that matter is fundamental. Don't you see that this reality is fooling you if you're still going to believe that matter is fundamental?
Even if that is the case, it doesn't change ethics because you're still splitting your consciousness apart by creating, you're creating new variants of consciousness. And you I don't know how you would say it. Not the opposite of the singularity. What's the word? Oh, you're like fragmenting your consciousness, I guess is the best word I can think of. You're like fragmenting your consciousness if that's the case. Like obviously at some point things didn't exist as they are. So if everything is just a consciousness creating things, I mean, I think it's more than just me, because if there was only me, I'd destroy this fucking shit. Plus, as I said, like, I'm obviously not God, so I'm not, if I am God, I'm pretty shitty to myself and everything else around me for no particular reason. So, I don't think I'm not a solipsist. I don't believe I'm, like, manifesting the universe. So, that's just silly bullshit. And so if this is some type of, like, consciousness that originally created it, it wasn't fucking me. So that means that it fragmented and became a different individual at some point, which is me. Which means at one point, even if matter arose from a singular consciousness, which is how it must be if it is the case, it just means that, like, yeah, it's the Fetal Leap Mainlander case scenario where, like, there was this consciousness that existed, its imagination so perfect it can imagine everything, and then it basically split it apart and became fragments of this single consciousness, and took on different perspectives of its imagination while having on a deterministic form. So it's kind of like, forget the term, not solipsism, but not the what solipsists believe the universe is made out of. Let me think. Trying to find out that terminology. I can't remember what it's called. Whatever, I don't really care. Basically, there's a concept that states that, like, every particle in the universe, every single location, everything that is made of everything has, like, a single consciousness, which, I mean, is like a godlike consciousness, like infinite potential of awareness sprouting from all points. And I don't know, man. Like, it's an interesting concept, and it's kind of like if and it's just kind of like I don't know. I've just kind of like imagine if the whole universe is just kind of made out of like semblances of like of that in a way, but like not like that exactly, but like a split up fractal version of it. Like imagine whatever perspective God could imagine is basically like getting split up and imagined, taking on deterministic form. I don't know if that's. I mean, it's silly in my opinion, but it's possible, and everything's like kind of. A lot of things are fucking silly. So I just don't. I don't. I feel like the universe is definitely a physical universe, but I mean, if it is a mental construction, I mean, I don't know. I just don't see it being any more relevant or to ethics in any way. Like, hmm. I don't know, I'm trying to analyze this a little bit. Like, think about like what the fuck that would mean. Like, it doesn't mean anything different because if we arose from consciousness, consciousness split apart, become what it is right now, fragmented versions of consciousness. Fucking shitty ass mic. Testing 1, 2. Hmm. It wouldn't be like a God particle thing where it's just like everything is conscious. It would be more like everything has a fragment of what makes up the prime consciousness, whatever that is, whatever makes up consciousness. And, like, we are fragments of like prime consciousness, I guess. And then, so I guess it would be like something more elaborate and complex than we are now, but conscious, you know. And then it basically has to do with like imagine the universe in all possible ways it is, because it's just a mind with like supreme imagination, and we know we can imagine things. Essentially, just fragments apart to become different individuals. It seems for the case what it is, because I'm not you and you're not me. It seems everything is taking a deterministic route of becoming more fragmented until it kind of just disappears altogether. As evolution is, it's just one single organism, one single consciousness thing, fragmenting, tearing each other apart, and becoming more complex and diversified until eventually, hopefully, humans will wipe ourselves out and everything else with it. So I don't know. I mean, it's just me being biased as a Fleet Mainlander fan, but still, it's just like I don't know, man. I just see it's possible we came from consciousness, like just conscious. I just don't see it as practical. Like I just don't see it as like likely. It seems to me more likely that we came from physical stuff and things just kind of started to arrange in that way. Like well, there's not much of a difference, you know. To me, it's not much of a difference. I mean, once the God figure started to split apart, everything became physical, at least in a way. It no longer became the dream of the entity and became more of like unleashed from its mind and into fruition, actuality as a deterministic force. I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but you know, it seems to be the best explanation. regardless, that's just pontificating about useless shit, because all we care about is ethics on this channel, and as I said before, regardless of if everything was constructed from a mind or if it came from a physical universe, we could pontificate about that all we want. It doesn't really matter, because experience is what generates value. It's positive and negative experiences that cannot be denied, and we know that lack is generally more negative experience in this reality or dream, whatever you want to call it. So hence, bringing things into this dream or fragmenting yourself in the dream is hence a bad thing to do. Why? You don't need to create more feeling things in the dream world, in the dreamscape or whatever. And if there are, and if it is a dream, then it's based off of a base reality, which the dream is made of, or whatever, or the maximum dreamer, or whatever. It really comes down to like how, like who's doing this dream and why, and is our base reality of the dream, and what does it mean to, how do you dream? Like, is dreaming just memories? Like, does that really mean, like, is that really a dream, or is it just potential, raw potential? Like, I don't know.
If matter is fundamental, it will mean that time exists. It will mean that everything has a beginning. So here's what it will mean. It will mean that in the beginning, there was nothingness. So my question to you is, what caused the first thing to exist? This is a very important question. What caused the first thing that existed to exist? If matter is fundamental, because then what it will mean? It will mean that there was nothing, because time exists, so there was nothing, and then something started to exist. So what caused that thing to start existing? And why is this world? Why does everything seem synchronized? Why does everything seem to depend on each other to work, to depend on other things to work? Like, there's the sun, there's the moon. You know, during the day, the sun shines the light on the world, and during the night, there's the moon, which also shines. Why did that happen? You mean to tell me that's a fucking coincidence? You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes scientists like make me laugh. I realize that they're just like religious people. Think about it.
I mean, they could have just made a lesser sun that also just makes it, but instead they chose a reflective surfaced rock that some days doesn't have. I mean, I guess it's good for indicating time and stuff like that, so it is rather convenient, but that's just a coincidence as well. I mean, our perceptions are completely different than other animals, and so some animals don't even have the ability to probably sense the moon, really. Some animals live completely underground. So it's just a specious approach to think that, like, oh, it's made for us, you know, it's like we benefit from the moon. So therefore, because it allows us to hunt at night or whatever, or see predators, therefore, clearly the universe is just made for us, you know, it's just like, it seems that way, yeah, but it's, I mean, sure, the universe seems like it's made for the fucking tiger when the tiger is having fun hunting its prey or whatever, you know. Everything seems like it's made for you until you're in a shithole or whatever, and then you're like, holy fuck. Fuck this so-called balance. This is not balance.
Right. This world seemed to, you kind of tell, listen, things are so perfect. I don't mean that perfect because things are actually working out for us. You know, they were suffering. But I mean, the way things work in this world is so perfect. You know, when it rains, trees grow. Look at yourself. You have eyes, you have teeth because you eat. You can breathe, you breathe. You gotta tell me this shit is a fucking coincidence. If you think it's a coincidence, I'm sorry, something's wrong with you. This is not a coincidence. So my question to you is, how is it possible that random events happen and you ended up existing? It's completely impossible. Like, there is absolutely no chance that this reality will exist the way that it exists if this happened by chance and happened randomly. You know, things just wouldn't make sense. Like, there will be random shit that's happening that it'll just be randomness everywhere. Let me put it that way. It'll just be randomness everywhere. You know, sometimes it will rain and water wouldn't really be necessary because nothing will depend on another thing to survive. You know, it wouldn't even depend on water. Sometimes you drink water and it tastes like wine and you get drunk. Sometimes you drink water and you feel healthy. Sometimes you drink water and your stomach will explode. Like things just wouldn't work together if this was random. Do you understand that? So this is not random. This is a fact. This is not random. Don't let anyone lie to you.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
people think that they're smart because they think we came from evolution. That there was the Big Bang happened and all that shit. Like no, they didn't.
fucking idiot. It definitely did. Things. It's not. Physics isn't random. Physics follows a law. Evolution is random. The mutations have no reason for which they occur. The survival is determined not randomly, it's determined by the environment. Hence why things seem as they are, hence why things are consistent and not random, so to speak. You don't find like a random tulip in the middle of the desert, you know, because things don't survive in other environments, you know. And physics stay the same. Hence, so it's just like, yeah, I mean, there are laws, but like we know, like the fact we are here in this universe is random. Like it's determined, yes, it's determined in a sense. Like it's determined that the first chemical reaction that made life would have occurred since the very set off of time. But at the same time, it's like random in the sense that there's no like there's nothing you can directly point to that like caused the mutation to go as it did, at least as far as we're aware of. Like, you know, there's nothing directing it. It just happens to a photon of light hits the thing and bounces off a DNA like strand or whatever, or copied one way because one genome happened to meet there first or whatever, one sperm or whatever. It happened to copy imperfectly because some random radiation in the atmosphere or something. I don't know. Like literally, the fact that mutations occur is, I mean, what parts of the DNA are passed on is completely random. Like we know that because there's like shitty fucking mutations all over the place. Like it's evident. Like we know that shitty fucking flaws happen all the time in mutations. So, you know, take it over the course of billions of years, and here we fucking are. It's kind of like, yeah, the fact that things survive or die is not random. Like if I put something under a laser beam, it's gonna fucking die. It's not gonna potentially randomly live. You know, if it's made of a carbon organism, it's fucking dead. So the environment, what survives in the environment is not random. The mutation itself is random.
Like, stop being so gullible. Why do you believe that they figured out that the Big Bang happened? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, if matter is fundamental, that would mean that this universe really had a beginning. But what caused the first thing to exist? We can say, okay, something outside of this reality caused the first thing to exist, something like God.
Vaping.
But there's still a problem. Who created God? Because whatever created this reality would have to be super intelligent, more intelligent than we are, more complex than we are. So it would mean that that thing had been created by something. You see, there's still that problem. And if you're going to come up with an answer and say, okay, God was created by 1, 2, 3, what created that 1, 2, 3? You know what I mean? What you must realize is that consciousness is fundamental. Consciousness is the only thing that exists, is the only thing that has ever existed, and is the only thing that can exist. See, it's nothingness. There isn't anything that physically exists. Everything is an illusion, and that is the truth. Doesn't that make sense? Everything is an illusion. Just like in your dreams, everything is an illusion. Nothing really exists. You just believe when you're in your dream that whatever you experience is reality, but it isn't. Isn't that the truth? Though, if you're not trying to have a conversation with the characters in your dream and ask them about the nature of reality, what did they tell you? I've had conversations with dream characters before, and I've actually did tell them that I think I'm in a dream, and they told me, I'm crazy. You're not in a dream. What the fuck? Why would you think you're in a dream, man? You should go and see a doctor. I remember one of the characters did say that. Why is it that your dream characters try their best to convince you that you're not dreaming when you figure out that you're dreaming? It's like consciousness is trying to fool itself. So what I'm trying to tell you is that consciousness is fundamental. Consciousness is fundamental. Consciousness is all there is. I'm still trying to answer this question. What happens when we die? So yeah, like I said, the first thing that we need to figure out is whether matter is fundamental or consciousness is fundamental. And I've just told you that consciousness is fundamental, and I've given you reasons to believe that consciousness is fundamental. I mean,
Well, I can give you reasons to think that matter is fundamental in a way. Like, we know everything breaks down into atoms. We know at some point we didn't exist and there was just microorganisms that didn't have consciousness. We know they don't have a nervous system. We know nervous systems are fundamental to consciousness. If you start tweaking around in someone's brain, it fundamentally alters their perceptions of the world and their ability to be a conscious being. If you go back even further, you get to the point where it's literally just atoms. Atoms and energy. And now we know with modern technology that what makes consciousness is basically just the hardware, which is the brain, and then the energy, which is circling around, which when it takes on certain pathways configured by the hardware, which is the brain, the physical thing, it allows for something called consciousness to form. So we know at one point there was no consciousness, there's just physical atoms and energy. And at some point or another, those things began to have those physical atoms took on a carbon molecule, and that became like a biological organism which started replicating. And eventually, after a long period of time, the first ouch occurred. And once the first ouch occurred, things began feeling because they started dividing and spreading, because the ouch was a more efficient mechanism of telling it which things to avoid in order to reproduce better. And bing, bang, boom, here you go. Just as a mechanism of a physical thing bouncing around to try to steal energy, to allow itself to split apart and make copies of itself imperfectly. Just because of that mechanism going over and over and over, billions of years, just microorganisms, billions of years of microorganisms just tearing each other apart. Eventually, the first ouch occurred. And it's just like, you can say, like, well, where did that come from? You know, doesn't that require a fundamental consciousness? I don't fucking know, but I don't think so. I don't think avoidance behavior getting more and more and more complex and more efficient and more screamy and more loud, and eventually becomes so loud that it goes from like a discomfort and itch to a more piercing sensation to a more like terrible agonizing sensation when you're being ripped apart. And then eventually you have words that begin to form, such an inner language that begins to form, an inner pattern of consciousness that begins to form, that communicates to you like what is going on around you, like that is an object or whatever. Like, instead of just responding to like phenomenon randomly, you can essentially have a more complex version of responding to things, which is what higher organisms such as humans and mammals have, and reptiles, and animals. Basically, insects are in this weird medium where they're kind of like still puppeted rather strongly by their environment. Animals potentially don't even really have like a strong version of consciousness like we do either, so they're rather still puppeted by their environment as well. They don't really have an internal thought, but they have the ability to respond rather complexly. But consciousness as is in humans, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's literally just taking pain responses and just getting it more and more and more complex, and to the point where you get like a language formula to describe things around you. I don't know. That's just the way I see it. I don't see it as fundamental that you need like consciousness to make matter. I just see it as like, yeah, man, we know there's everything can be broken down into matter. So why, everything can be built up into something more complex. And we know our sensations have degrees of intensity. We know organisms around us have degrees of intensity of emotions and feelings and sensations. We know a bacteria doesn't feel anything. We know a mollusk probably feels a little bit more than a bacteria, maybe, but it doesn't feel as much as a goat or a person or a monkey or a fish. So it's just kind of like, we know these things. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, it just seems silly to deny that it's possible that consciousness just arose from a spontaneous event of mutation over the course of billions of years. It's not like just arose like randomly, it's just like at some point there was like something that's barely a consciousness, and then it became a little bit more complex and a little more complex to the point where it's like now. And you can tell there's gradients in human consciousness. Not all people have inner monologues. Not all people have inner imagination and inner visualization. Some people, as obvious degrees of intellect and like intelligence in general. There's degrees in emotional empathy. So it's like we all have degrees in like our consciousness and how it's fluctuated and like been passed down from generation to generation by bloodline and through like socialization intensities and stuff like that. So we all know like consciousness can be different in people. So what's this like different intensities, so you can lack complete features of consciousness that others have possession of. So it's like, well, why not just think that it's completely possible that like you can just start taking off gradients of consciousness, like shaving off little pieces of consciousness until you get just to the atoms. So I don't know, just the atoms and energy basically, and then just by rearranging them, you get your self-consciousness, and that's what I think happens. We rearranged our brains through complex random mutation. We arranged our bodies through complex mutations into having the atoms of the universe, and by absorbing things energy-wise, and became eventually for billions of years a brain, and the brain gave us consciousness. Wow, not complex, but at the same time, it seems like you need to explain it in a way that is very fucking clear and somewhat. So who knows, man? Who knows, man? I don't fucking know, man. But I think it's not a guarantee that everything comes from consciousness.
That I told you really makes the most sense. So consciousness is fundamental. So this reality is made out of consciousness. That's it. That's it. The second question that we need to ask ourselves is, can consciousness die? This is a very important question. Can consciousness die? Or it will just dream up another reality when it wakes up from another reality. And that will be death. Waking up from a reality that you believed was real, and then it goes to another reality. So yeah, I'm asking you a question. Does consciousness die? Is it possible for consciousness to die? When you think deeply, do you feel like consciousness can die? What I know consciousness can do is make itself forget. I've told you in another video that we are product of our genes, product of our experiences, and yeah, consciousness, we're product of our genes and experiences and memories. So we are what we are because of our memories or genes, even though all that shit is an illusion. But I'm trying to show you something. If you forgot everything that you know, everything, and you got reprogrammed completely, you wouldn't be yourself anymore, and you wouldn't be the same being that you are, right? You still be conscious, but you wouldn't be yourself. That would mean that you're dead. You understand that? If you forgot everything that you know, you will be dead. That's death. So that's what I think happens when we die. I think we forget about this reality. That's death. It's forgetting. Or maybe we don't forget, but we end up realizing that it was all an illusion. It was all a dream. So we don't take it seriously. The same way that when you wake up from a dream, you don't take it seriously anymore. So you don't really forget it. I mean, you do forget 99% of your dreams. That's why dreams don't make sense. Maybe dreams do make sense when we're in them, but because we forget them, they don't make sense. We don't remember them in a way that we don't remember. Like we just remember bits and pieces. So it doesn't make sense. So it feels like dreams are not persistent, But maybe it's how we remember them. That's not. We just don't remember enough about them. So yeah, maybe you just wake up and be like, oh fuck, it was all a dream. But I think death is you forgetting everything.
Well, what do you
and you don't become yourself again. So death does exist. So you die. For real, like you'll be gone. And you won't exist as yourself again. So consciousness will continue to exist, but you'll be dead because you will have forgotten what has happened. You would have forgotten everything. So consciousness will continue to exist, but in a different form, but not in a different form. Actually, it will just be dreaming things that are different from what it was dreaming in this reality. That's it. So that's what happens when you die. You still be conscious, but you won't be yourself. So yes, your ego will die. That's what I mean. So death is possible. You're gonna die. That's what I'm trying to explain. But consciousness will continue to exist. That's what I think happens. And there are a lot of things that
Well, yeah, in a way, like, I mean, that's kind of what I'm somewhat saying from a physicalist perspective is like when you die, your energy goes and it's taken up by other things. It's not like you really die, but you die. Like, that doesn't exist in like a total sense because, like, it kind of, I mean, it does and doesn't. Like, you die, the configuration of your atoms gets torn apart and will never be that way again. But similarly enough, like, your atoms always decaying off of you and shit like that. So, I mean, not much of difference. But what is different is that like the arrangement of your atoms are no longer in the way of like being neurons, which is which creates value, which creates pain and pleasure. So, I mean, eventually it's possible that your atoms will be taken up in some way by other things, at least partially or fully, and they'll convert your body into ATP, and that'll be used to power their brains to make thoughts and feelings. So instead of looking away, your consciousness gets taken up by other consciousnesses. But that doesn't even require you to die for that to occur, because we're constantly like shitting, pissing ourselves, or dying and decaying off our body, give off heat and stuff like that, and so our energy is expelling and being taken up by other things. So in a way, we're constantly just like dying and giving off our particles and having our particles taken up by other things. Our consciousness is constantly in fluctuation of other things. The only thing that makes us remain us is the hardware, our brain, basically. The energy, which is like the software, the consciousness mechanism, is kind of just flowing between all things in the universe, so to speak. It's like a river and torrent, and the only thing that gives it a foundation or ability to have like an eye is the body. Please let me join. Sure, I'll let you go. I'll let you join. I don't really care. Bonk. Bonk. Joe. Oh, you're the religious guy, if I remember right. Sure, I'll let you join. I don't care.
Hello?
Hello. Shalom.
What? Why do you have Benedict as your background?
No, it's not background. I'm watching a video right now.
Oh, I was saying, why do you have Benedictine the vegan as your background?
I'm watching a video right now about consciousness and the origin of the universe. He's talking about how he thinks it's consciousness that creates matter, and I'm talking about how I think matter creates consciousness, basically. So
You think matter creates consciousness?
yes, I think it was just a bunch of atoms bouncing around, and eventually, through billions of years of evolution, things kind of just took on the form of neurons, and bing, bang, boom, here we are. But
Oh, somebody's better. Somebody's better.
bitter.
What? I mean, you're saying there is no ghost in the machine. There is just a machine that's interpreting the great ghost.
Where quite literally, yeah, I think that it's just a bunch of atoms bounce around, and it kind of just happened so that the atoms started to take on a perception of other things bouncing around, and it began to piece them into random, began to piece them into images, essentially, to more efficiently steal energy from other things around it,
So it's all just a trade of energy.
basically. And unfortunately, sensation kind of came out as a byproduct of that, which made value happen to these energy exchanges, which,
Have you ever been in love?
I have.
Have you lost love?
I have.
All right. So what if because your loss of love maybe skewed your perception?
What?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you are someone that experienced love, right?
Yeah.
So
So what?
maybe what if that love had continued? What if it had been enriched to the point where you are no longer feeling that sense of, loss or pain or anything? What if it had been totally fulfilled? Maybe you would not be bitter.
I'm not bitter.
You don't think so?
I'm not bitter about anything that doesn't require bitterness.
I think you're so strong for yourself because you feel that you have to be.
I think you're a little punk ass bitch.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
If
I
you
can
don't
take.
think if you don't think that I should be bitter because my best friend, the only person I've ever loved in my life, was raped and tortured by her family and committed suicide earlier this year. If you don't think that there's a reason to be bitter, that's not just me being like, oh yeah, I'm just bitter and I need to find the eternal love. I just neglected the eternal love or some bullshit. Like fuck you. Like there's a possibility of the eternal love. Yeah, no,
Oh,
everything comes to an end, Chief.
but you say that clearly. I haven't experienced anything even remotely close to that. But I'm just trying to. Well, I no, I haven't experienced anything like that. I won't lie.
Understandable.
A little extreme.
Indeed, my life is full of uncomfy. Hers was full of much more, which is why she took it. So,
But you're still here.
to prevent people from coming into similar circumstances such as herself, yes.
So what you're advocating for antinatalism because you experience pain and someone that you know has been
It
exited
was
from the.
essentially, I mean, the reason I do activism is basically because of that. I mean, I believe it takes a very intense amount of pain to motivate someone to go through pain themselves. So you can understand that everybody's value is equal to your own and that you should be doing things regardless of what motivating factors you have. But the reason I do things is quite literally, as all people do, for selfish reasons. So, I mean, I'm basically driven by hatred of this world and the fact that things suffer in it. That things are going to be basically just like my friend. That my friend went through all that, and she's literally a statistic. There are 1 in 6 people get sexually assaulted just like her. Like, what, I don't know, I think it's like 8% of people kill themselves or some shit. So it's just like when it comes down to it, she's just lost in the sauce of billions of people and like quadrillions of animals. So it's just kind of like, yeah, it's really fucking unfortunate. Like I care for her and her value is equal to other things. So it's like I'm driven by a selfish principle of like the pain that I felt when she died is what motivates me because I want to prevent things from feeling pain like I felt and she felt. But I understand that their value is equal to my own, so it's just like it's also somewhat intellectual at the same time. So
It sounds to me that you keep her memory alive, but
yeah,
also the fact that you keep her memory alive and the fact that you are fighting against the possibility of pain for the future, I believe is proof that there is beauty in the world. And look at what you are doing.
I
What
don't
if
think
she is
that's
what
beautiful.
if
That's
she's on
just
the other what if she's on the other side telling you, "Hey, when you go out into your daily life, maybe give what if it was someone on downtrodden on the side of the road or someone at your job or someone in a warehouse or some, middle-aged woman who was having a tough day at her grocery store job or something. What if all you did every day for the rest of your life was to encourage one person every day? What if that was literally the memory of her that you could continue on instead of putting out destruction?
I
What
don't
if
put out
what if what
destruction.
if
I put out
continuing
prevention.
her memory was just doing one good true thing every day? What if that
Yeah.
was
So what the fuck is your good then? You have to say what a good is. You can't just say, oh, do a good thing, because to me a good thing is activism. To me a good thing is preventing harm. To me a good thing is going up to someone that's suffering and putting a bolt in their fucking head. So when it comes down to it, our definition of good is a little bit different, I think. You can't just say, oh, do a good thing. You have to start defining what is a good thing.
You have totally given up.
I haven't given up. I've done years of study into ethics and the nature of right and wrong.
All your
You have-
philosophy, all your studies, what has it brought you?
To the fucking truth. What has brought you to lies?
What is it? But what does it serve you? Look at your attitude.
Why
Look
should
at
it
what it's
serve
done
me?
to you.
Why should it serve me? I'm not a fucking... I don't give a shit about myself. I am equal to things around me, and there are quintillions of beings more than me. Why should I prioritize me when I know everything else around me is equal in value, and there's far more of them, and they're in far more negative experiences than myself? So you have to ask, so why should I care about my negative results when it comes down to it, if my negative results have much more positive results for everything else, because I'm removing negatives?
You're trying so hard to be a robot, and yet you cared about somebody to the extent that now it breaks your soul. And you have shown that that care was the very thing that was the premise of your story now, that you have become such a robot yourself. That
I
is
was
that is
born a
not that is
robot.
not that is not human.
I
That is
was
not
born a
human.
psychopath, basically.
You're not a psychopath.
I was basically born a psychopath. She basically changed me to having some level of empathy for the world. And now that she's dead, it doesn't really fucking matter. I don't have any objectives besides preventing suffering. The only thing that fucking matters is preventing suffering and producing pleasure. But suffering prevention comes first. We don't have any obligations to produce pleasure, at least not at the cost of pain.
You know what Joseph Stalin said? Joseph Stalin fell in love with a woman who got yellow fever and died. And you know what Joseph Stalin said before he became the evil dictator he did? He said, "Now dies my love with this woman, the last very good thing that I ever loved and saw as true." And that was the last thing Joseph Stalin ever did. He saw his great love die, and then he became a purely evil man. Do not fall into that same trap, I beg of you.
I don't. There's a difference between enacting in literal genocide and starvation of your people for the needless production of nationality and the prevention of the entire future suffering of the entire planet by eliminating the catalyst of all that, life itself. There's a huge difference between causing suffering, bringing things into existence, an entire generation, to help them die and suffer for the needless thing of the country land, in comparison to actual value, which is experience, eliminating negative experience. He was just trying to generate whatever, the economy, the booming of the Russian Empire. Who gives a shit about that? There's no value in some nationality, some arbitrary land border, but there is value in experience.
Your nihilism will lead you to nothing.
I'm not a nihilist. I just said I value experience.
You clearly are a nihilist. There's no way around it.
I value
nothing. End of story. End of blah 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 blah. Nothing.
So saying experience matters, my friend, suffering matters, that's nihilism?
Why are you unable to live for those that would wish for you to keep on living if they were still here? Why can't you?
Here.
You don't know that. Maybe they're still in your heart. Maybe they're still on the other side. You don't know that. You're drawing your complete conclusions.
They're not here.
Sometimes the truth is just right in front of us, but we overcomplicate things, Just like I was saying, the life is a dream, but you don't want to believe it's a dream, even though you dream every night. Isn't that reality trying to show you that life is just a dream? The fact that you dream every night, the fact that you believe that what you're experiencing is reality when you're dreaming, that should tell you something. It is just a dream. Nothing is real. When people are depressed, I try to tell them that none of this shit is real. Just don't take it too seriously. None of this shit matters anyway. You're born into this world full of stupid people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Why take things too seriously? Don't take anything seriously. Be yourself.
I think you should take experience very fucking seriously. You know that life sucks. And if you stab the knife into your own fucking leg, it's hard to not be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna not take that seriously. If someone starts torturing someone you love in front of you, you can try to ignore it, but I doubt you fucking can. You can't deny that some experiences fucking matter. Sure, it's chaotic. Sure, you can't really control shit. Sure, everybody's so stupid that they'll deny direct experience or say that, like, maybe your consciousness of your friend is swirling around inside your testicles, you know? Maybe they're still there, you know? Maybe they're just whirling around all around you, but as you're jacking off, they're just peering in the corner, just like, wow, Brant, what a beautiful life you live. You know, I wish you would be jacking off to something happy or something. I don't fucking know. Like, I don't. What's the point of all this woo-wah fairy tale nonsense when you know there's fucking direct reality in front of you, direct experience, generating direct fucking value that you experience directly and viscerally.
exactly what you want to do.
You can
Impose your
make all
will on
these
this
little
reality.
woo-wah
Even if people are going to
excuses to
judge you, it's fine.
compensate and
Understand that?
cope, but it's just fucking bullshit.
Be yourself. That's the real test. The real test is you becoming yourself. The real test is you being able to record a video like this with people passing, looking at you like you're crazy, and giving them a fucking middle finger and just playing. You don't start unnecessary fights. But be yourself 100%. That is what's gonna help you. I keep on telling people that sometimes
Because
people
this
are
shit really
depressed
helps
because they
me.
are not
Yeah, if
able
I
to be themselves.
ignored all the suffering around me, I would definitely feel a lot better. I felt better before I, like, you know, acknowledged veganism as a truth. I felt better before I acknowledged anti-natalism as truth. I felt better before I took psychedelics and I just didn't care about people. Before, when I had homicidal fantasies to just rip people's heads off and fuck their throats raw, you know. When I had those fantasies every single day and I just didn't care and I was like, just waiting for the future where I would just be independent and able to slaughter folk. You know, when I had those times when I just didn't care at all, everything was better. Just caring only for me and not for anybody else. Just being like, my value is first and my value is what matters. If I feel good, the world is good. If I feel bad, the world is bad. That's all that matters is me. You guys, you may as well just be crumpled up and spit out. Honestly, the world is a lot better when you have such a perception for yourself. But does it really help anybody else around you? No. You go about your diet as a non vegan without having any sympathy. You can hurt the feelings of those around you and just feel pride in the fact you can manipulate others' emotions. You can do all these things without a care in the world, and it brings you pleasure, it brings you amusement, it brings you bliss and comfort, ignorance. But does it really matter? Does it really produce value? Is it really good? Are you really winning, son? Because everything else is equal value to yourself. And given identity nihilism, your neurons are constantly in fluctuation. Everything in your body is in constant fluctuation. You aren't really the same person you were 10 years ago, yet alone 5 years ago. So it's just kind of like, it's hard to say that you matter more than anything else around you. In fact, I'd say it's impossible to do that
You're
logically.
living a lie. How the fuck are you going to be okay if you're living a lie? You're not able to be who you really are. You're not able to do what you want to do. You're not able to speak your truth. So of course you're not going to be okay. Try to be yourself, regardless of how other people, act, how other people live their lives. Even if people are going to think that you're crazy, it is okay. It's totally okay. Just make sure that you're being yourself. That is the real test. Make sure that you're honest. You're not afraid to be yourself. You're not afraid to speak the truth. You're not a bitch. Be yourself. I'm telling you, that's going to help you a lot. Stop living a lie. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to other people. You're going to feel much better. It's very important that you are yourself. That's the real test. I don't care what your situation is. I don't care what you're going through. Make sure that you're being yourself. Even if you are homeless, you have nothing, be yourself. Be unpredictable. If you are really
If you're
yourself, you'll be
homeless, yeah,
unpredictable.
just fucking be yourself. I mean, honestly, you have nothing
Just
to
do
lose
what
to
you
that
want to do, man.
point.
If you are homeless
Go to
and you want
jail and
money,
ask the cover for
sometimes
your head.
approach people that are not, are not going to help you and tell them, you know what, I'm ready to change my life. Buy me a fucking house. If you know they have the money. Like, buy me a fucking house, man. I'm done. I want to change my life. Just do the most unpredictable shit. Just see what happens. People, guys be complaining that girls don't like. Motherfucker, how many women have you approached in your life? Guy only approached like 50 women, but they'll be complaining online about women not liking them. What the fuck is wrong with y'all, guys? Like, go out, approach 1,000 women, approach 10,000 women in a year. Let's be sure that they really don't like you. Make sure that you're being yourself. Make sure that you're being real all the time. You don't have, you shouldn't be
Let's watch a video. I've never seen this video. I'm sure it's probably just going to be exactly what I said, though.
Stripped to its core.
The Greeks are right, and I share a fundamental knowledge of the ultra consciousness. Just kidding.
Meaning, consciousness is what allows us to be aware both of our surroundings and of our own inner state. But thinking about consciousness has this habit of taking us round in circles. We all intuitively know what consciousness is. It's this. It's what you're experiencing here, right now. But once we try to pinpoint just what exactly it is, it leaves us grasping at thin air. And not just us. Philosophers and scientists struggle to define consciousness. Different schools and ideas compete with one another, but no one has come close to figuring it out. It's unsettling to realize that we don't understand what makes us aware of ourselves and the world. In this fuzzy area, consciousness and intelligence are also related, although they are not the same. We'll talk in greater depth about theories of consciousness and intelligence in other videos. Like much of what makes us human, our consciousness is likely to have evolved from less complex forms as a product of evolution by natural selection. It has probably emerged from an immense several 100 million year sequence of countless microsteps that together make up a sort of gradient of consciousness. What was the first step on this path from the non-conscious to the basic consciousness that ultimately led to the convoluted consciousness we humans enjoy today? Take a stone. The consensus is that a stone is not conscious, though not everyone agrees even on this. Some panpsychists claim that a lump of rock may have an inner life. However, there are no real grounds for any such assumption, since stones never show behavior. Their inner life can neither be proven nor disproven. A more common starting point is with living things. A living thing, or a self, is a part of the universe that sustains itself and makes more of its kind. To do so, it needs energy. And this is where an awareness of the world comes in handy. The original function of consciousness was probably to direct a mobile self that was short of energy to a fresh supply of food. On the smaller scales of life, you don't need to be aware to find food. Trichoplax adherens, one of the simplest of all animals, moves around haphazardly. It slows down in the presence of food and speeds up in its absence. This is highly effective and makes the tiny creature spend more time where there is food than where there is not. But it never moves in a particular direction towards a particular target, and there's no need for it to be conscious of its environment. The first major step towards consciousness was probably taken when mobile selves started to move themselves directionally, moving towards what was good for them, say food, and away from what was less good, say someone else who thought that they were food. Take Dugicia tigrina, a tiny worm known for its funny face. Sometimes the worm is hungry, and sometimes not. This means that when it moves, the worm self is not simply producing an automatic response to an external stimulus, but that its actions depend upon its inner physiological state, whether it's hungry or sated. When it's just eaten, the worm is less energetic, but when starved for a while, it will move itself in the direction of tasty things. It uses chemoreceptors on its head to smell its environment and guide it in the direction where the scent of food is strongest. After finding and eating a meal, our worm buddy heads back to a dark, sheltered spot to digest it in safety, until it's hungry again. But animals that blindly follow their sense of smell don't have a concrete objective in view. They still lack any sense of where they are heading. So the next step on the ladder of consciousness is to add some perception at a distance, like vision. Vision adds context and depth to our world. With vision comes a sense of the space we and our food exist in. It adds a whole new dimension to awareness and is a huge step towards more familiar consciousness. An optical apparatus like an eye enables us to visualize our goal and lock onto it. But even at this stage, a self is only able to pursue its food as long as it sees it. So the next logical step needs to happen on the inside. To visualize food in its absence, for example, a self needs to create some sort of inner representation of the world. Now an animal can continue looking for food even when it escapes its sensory range. Because of this inner representation of what is relevant in the world, it can remain focused on its food and its desire to get it. Our self now exists in a world it can get familiar with. The ability to remember things has emerged. Thanks to memory, animals can be distracted from a pursuit for a few seconds, but quickly continue their path afterwards. A related phenomenon is called object permanence. This describes our awareness that things continue to exist even when we can't see them. This cognitive skill is enjoyed by some mammals and birds, and perhaps other animals too. Human babies tend to develop this ability around the time they turn 8 months, while baby chickens show this ability within a day or two of being born. The capacity to remember a thing in its absence suggests at least a basic sense of time. A sense of time is a big step on the ladder of consciousness. It may also enable a self to look forward from the present moment and anticipate the future. Adult chickens, for example, are able to resist a meal put in front of them if they expect to receive a bigger meal as a prize for holding back for a while. This sort of delayed gratification means there is an ability to visualize a reward that only exists in the future, which can be quite a challenge even for adult humans. Western scrub jays are experts in delayed gratification. They show an even more elaborate sense of the future when they hide food in a cache to retrieve it at a later date. The scrub jays will even re-hide their food if they become aware that a potential thief has been watching them. This means that they know that there are other hungry selves out there who are aware and see the world from their own different perspective. Crafty scrub jays can sort of read the mind of their fellow birds. This ability to mind read is crucial for complex levels of consciousness. By putting yourself in the position of others, you can outsmart a rich competitor or empathize with a hungry friend. Language takes the ability to read minds and represent what is absent to a whole new level. Words enable us to construct hypotheses about the world, make detailed plans, and to communicate them with others. Words enable us to think about ourselves and our place in the universe, and even about our own consciousness, which is something we'll be doing more in future videos. So what is the origin of our consciousness? It probably began as the directed motion of a hungry self towards a source of food, with the survival benefits this gave it over competitors that moved at random or not at all. It probably all started with the urge for more food. So even with the sophisticated consciousness that allows us to dream about space, build skyscrapers, or obsess about novels, it's not surprising that we can't stop thinking about where we'll get our next meal. Collectively, we've put so much thought and ingenuity.
Food to better have more energy to reproduce. Hence, it's better for passing your genes, and the things that pass on the genes are what survive. So hence, the origin of consciousness is a byproduct of reproduction and more efficient reproduction. Just as the video went on to explain, there's gradients of consciousness. We all know there's gradients of consciousness. You just start shaving that shit off until there's nothing left. And we can do that. We can show that through evolution. So it's just kind of like, it's a physical universe. We add physical things without consciousness, and through reactionary mutations to the environment, it became more efficient at stealing other things' energy by gaining certain features of consciousness until we have today.
Into getting food that we can now just get our food to come to us with little conscious effort. This video is part 1 of a 3-part video series relating to big questions of life and the universe, made possible by a grant from the Templeton World Charity Foundation. You can find our sources and further reading in the video description, or get the Consciousness book by Rupert Glasgow for free, link down below. If you want to help us make more videos, you can do so on patreon.com or get...
Okay. Now we've covered consciousness because it was a little bit of a divergence in topic as usual. I don't really talk about the nature of consciousness too much, but Benedict was talking about it, and then a guest came on, if you can call him a guest. And yeah, basically we just talked about the nature of consciousness for a little bit, and I was just like, yeah, some silly billy shit, bro. So they pulled up that video, never saw that video. It's not like I was like pulling up some prime objective video. It's just like, this is narrative I agree with. No, I've never seen that video before. I just clicked it and it explained basically exactly what I already knew. So it's not a controversial thing, what I say. Yeah, it's pretty commonly accepted by science. And yeah, let's just dive back into EFILism. Fuck it. Back into usual, because I don't have anything really to say besides just like, you know, usual shit. Just don't cause unnecessary suffering. Value things of intense suffering over things of lower suffering in the real world. You know, obviously don't value pleasure above suffering. You know, your orgasm doesn't justify rape. You know, obviously pleasure cannot justify pain. That's just how it be. Stuff of that nature. Same as usual. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section. I'll answer them. Otherwise, we're just watching random EFIList content. For the people that randomly pop in, maybe they'll hear the words and it'll jolt their brain and be like, whoa, never saw that perspective before, man. And then they'll have empathy for the first time in their fucking lives. You know, real empathy. Cognitive empathy instead of effective empathy.
What fucking morality does evolution give you? It gives you fucked-hearted, egomaniacal, crazy shit. It doesn't have any rationality. It's just fucked-hearted, stupid behavior that's in the interest of DNA. It doesn't have anything to do with any ethics. Nature doesn't give you any fucking ethics. Nature fucktards you badly, and civilization gives you the grace to quit being a goddamn fucktard. If you get a little bit intelligent, you might be able to escape being a complete asshole. Animals do not struggle to survive. They struggle to achieve comfort. They don't give a fuck about survival. They don't even know what fucking death is. And humans are basically playing the same game. Most of them are under the delusion that they're not going to die anyway. They don't even contemplate. They just avoid that altogether. And they keep playing the game like there's no consequence, like there is no future. And that's basically the design of the organism, I would concede. But yes, because we're intelligent, we're able to know the truth and to be able to have a different sense of things. But let's not play this game that we are struggling to survive. We are struggling for the chocolate donut. We are competing over the Big Mac. We can see the little petty crap that we're after. We're not after survival. We're after bullshit. I gave you a whole context. We are the byproduct of a cell, a fucking piece of chemistry that acquired the capacity to reproduce. It then, for 4 billion years, evolved into all kinds of crazy-ass forms of life. Some existed, some got terminated. 2 billion years ago or so, they started having central nervous systems and started feeling. All right, and then they started all this carnage with feeling organisms. And this is the tripe you're going to give me back? This fucking goddamn tripe? Fuck.
Like, guys, it was a bullshit. What if maybe your friend's floating around conscious right now? Well, I sure as fucking hope not. Because she voluntarily exited this thing with a pan full of pills. If she's floating around conscious right now, she's fucking suffering. So, yeah, I hope she's not. I hope she's fucking not floating around conscious. What level of comfort does that woo-wow eternal pro-life bullshit fucking give me? It doesn't. Fucker. all these people are evil cunts and just give woo-wah excuses for things. Like, what if this woo-wah thing? What if that woo-wah thing? What if your negative utilitarianism's right and the atoms of the universe are actually constructed out of angry leprechauns that are saddened by the lack of suffering? So you're actually causing a negative by saddening every atom in the universe, by ending the suffering on Earth. It's like all these people have woo-wah shit, man. I was like, I can't take anybody seriously anymore. It's just like there's so much. We know where the universe came from, a fucking random expansion, and we know that random mutation is what caused us to be here. Like, whether came from conscious God, whether that came from a random event, who cares? The value lies in experience. Like, it doesn't, like, all these people have. Your friend would be saddened seeing you be an antinatalist. Yeah, well, I'm saddened that you fucking waste your time being a fucking Christian. Telling people this bullshit. Fucking disregarding the suffering of the universe like a fucking sadistic evil cunt. I'm deeply disturbed by that. How about that? How does that make you feel? Prick.
Could rewrite the selfish gene and just call it the homicidal serial killer gene, because that's really what it is. Throws baby birds out of the nest, picks them up and tosses them out to get eaten on the ground. So it's a kind of insidious murder all over the place. I set you up to catch fire, and then I cook a marshmallow on your cinders. We are living in this horrible meat grinder of a system, consuming preposterous amounts of suffering to feather our nest, so to speak, our bed that we're lying in of we're great. Our we're great bed is made out of a biosphere that suffers a lot so we can breathe. Evolution is a crude, dumb force that squanders suffering in preposterous volumes. It doesn't care about your suffering. It doesn't understand your suffering. It can't pay attention to it because it can't even recognize it. It mass murders children in horrible, disgusting, torturous ways. And you're saying it's oh fucking K. That makes you just as bad. It makes you worse. Nature doesn't have the sense to know better. We do have the sense to say, I'm not going to be part of Freddy's nightmare. I'm not going to feed Freddy. I'm not going to do anything to help him murder and torture. It doesn't care how much torture it makes. It only cares about creating winners and lots of losers. These people saying, we know what we're doing by having babies. What we're talking about is torture, imposed torture, some notion in your head. It will all be okay. Even if they're tortured, it will be okay somehow, because yin yang or something. A black swan will kiss all of the torture away. Stopping brains from experiencing torment, extreme, horrible anguish and suffering is a good thing. So any place you can stop something from suffering, stop it from being harmed more, it's good to do that. That's plus for your behavior, plus. We're just talking about the coinage, the value. The origin of the value is in the conscious experience. And it's a good thing to prevent a pain that doesn't need to exist. The truth is, this sausage making is ugly as fuck. So we're born into the world in need, with holes, with deprivations, with absences, trying to fill the fucking empty spots. That's all we do. And if we did it perfectly, in the end, we just win being unnegative. We don't actually make positives. We just clean up the negatives. That's all we're doing here. So there is no real victory. Climbing out of quicksand that you should have never been in the first place. We exist at the expense of the entire biosphere.
Love you.
Biosphere creating pure water, clean air, and all that stuff. There's a whole biosphere creating what we're living on. And it's being tormented. Huge attrition that exists in nature. The 8 little lion cubs are being torn to pieces alive. 30,000 sea turtles, 20,000 octopuses being tortured.
to be another generation of this game we're playing. And if
Another
the game were
generation of
free
bullshit.
or anywhere close to free, I'd say, okay, go ahead and play your stupid game. Who cares? But you know it's not. You know, to keep pretending, you know, especially talking from your non-blighted circumstance about how glorious it all is, it's just bullshit. Human beings are going to live in squalor tomorrow. The game of what the average human is and how far we are from knowing what real life is, and then try to calculate it into this animal world where consciousness really exists, where the bulk of consciousness is eking out an
I
existence.
remember.
That's the real
Fun
purgatory.
fact, the nature of consciousness, if you really think about it, is to avoid suffering to some extent or another. But if you really think about why, and to like propagate our genes, you know, essentially, like propagate our genes more efficiently, but essentially to propagate your genes more efficiently, you need to be able to react to your environment. We're extremely conscious. We can understand a knife is going to cut us without exactly feeling it. Well, you could see, like, you can get cut by a knife and you could see a similar sharp object and never get cut by it before. Like, you could see a sharp stone in, like, the middle of a woods. It's all curved and weird looking. And you can understand that if you run your hand against it, it's going to cut you as well because it's sharp. We have, like, an inner consciousness. So you don't necessarily need to have an intense pain for everything. You can just have, like, a baseline understanding of what pain is and what causes pain, but have consciousness kind of do the rest. My point being, animals don't necessarily have a higher consciousness like we do. They don't have higher understanding. So it might actually be more beneficial for animals to have a more intense version of pain and more intense version of pleasure. Basically, they have like just more visceral physical sensations and emotional reactions to things in compared to humans, because we have the ability to just rationalize our situation, so we don't necessarily need to have a visceral sensation to motivate us. So I think that's another good point, just to imagine the quantity of suffering in the wild, because, you know, it's either equal to our own, because we know our nervous systems are the same as theirs, but pretty much you can also theorize that it could be very likely to be more intense than ours, some of their experiences, just because they don't understand that experience is going to end. It's just pain. Plus, it's beneficial for their nervous systems in general to be more visceral and reactionary. So
Here, when you glorify your life and justify all that's paid for it, horrible stuff. I mean, slow, suffocating death in an earthquake. These are things experienced by people that, you know, I would have to pay you an awful lot of money to go on that ride. If that ride was at Disney World, the slow, crushing death ride, I'd have to pay you a lot of money to get in that little cart. And you goddamn know it. And so quit pretending that this is, you know, something that's so fucking free and so obviously worth the trouble, when the only thing that's motivating you is complete bullshit, just perceptual needs, your perceptual desires. They're not even needs. They're not even something that you'll be caused real harm. It's just perceived harm. It's just a hysterical reaction, like you broke your fingernail or something. Your fake fingernail fall off and you're all hysterical, but you gotta go find your fake fingernail. I mean, it's just a hysterical, immature reaction to think that there's something awful, horrible if there's human beings on this stupid planet 1,000 years from now. There's no horror. There is no crushing death. There's no loss. The only thing lost is your need for there to be something more. That's all we lose. We lose your need. Oh, what a horror. We lost a need. A need that doesn't need to exist. I mean, it's a simple friggin' statement in a sentence, but no one will deal with that sentence. Instead, they just ridicule the entire philosophy or ridicule the person who's uttering it. This mocking, silly rhetoric that has nothing behind it beyond fairy tale. No, all the fairy tales end with happily ever after. How dare you tell us what to think? And that's the other thing. It really is the psychology, just like a religion or something. They're just going based on their majority status. Well, the rest of us believe it, you silly person. You know, there's just no credibility at all to the argument that because an average human being thinks they're accomplishing something, they must be accomplishing something. Piro does this too. He makes these imbecilic arguments that, oh, there's no absolute truths. You know, people can believe whatever the fuck they want. Well, then why don't you let people believe that there's no harm in molesting a child if that's what they believe? I mean, who are you to tell them so, right? Because nothing can be stated as a fact. It's just silly and stupid. This idea of the truth, that's the other part too, is that people, even on my own videos, when they're sort of agreeing with me, they keep saying things like, oh, there's so much we don't know. There's so much we don't know. There's so much we do know. I mean, you assholes are going to just keep complaining forever unless somebody hands you a videotape with every single detail of the universe on it. You're just going to keep whining that somehow we don't know enough to draw any conclusions. Bullshit. I mean, the evidence is in. We know where we came from. We know what all this shit is about. It's called evolution, and it doesn't have any judgment. It doesn't have any brain. It's not doing anything constructive, but forcing, obliging organisms to chase a completely illusionary goal, so it will indirectly satisfy the primate directive, which is, yeah, just spread genes, spread genes. That's the prime directive, and everything else is just a contrivance to manipulate the organisms in that direction. And that's the only game here. And that's what all your little needs are made out of. That's what all your little perceptions of value are made out of. You're just chasing your own hunger. You're not chasing something real. You're chasing a hunger placed inside of you. You're the one with the problem. The hunger doesn't exist in the world or in the universe. It only exists in your perception. There is no positive value except in your perception. All there is downside risk to this game, this life, sentient life game anyway. But again, this idea that we don't know, we know. I mean, ask the question and there's a reasonable answer, a specific question. Every question we need to answer, we have an answer for. A solid, beyond reasonable doubt answer. Anyway, yeah, it's just very discouraging. You have to keep arguing this stuff. And again, I'll reiterate another, I think, point that just can't get past is that if I could extract your hunger, your desire, your addiction from you, if I could take it away, your desperate need for all this bullshit, the ego crap, the I need to accomplish crap, the I'm accomplishing something crap, whatever it is, I am better than I look. Whatever you're contriving in your head to find rationalizations and excuses for your mediocrity, your glorifications, yeah, you'd see no value in it. I mean, it's like taking away your passion for a baseball team or something, and all of a sudden baseball is going to look really stupid. If I take away your attachment to the players, or your attachment to the team colors, or whatever else it is you're rooting for, you're not going to see anything of value in it anymore. It's just going to look stupid. It's going to look like a pointless waste of energy. Where else to go with that? That one's a good point, the whole sports analogy thing, because it really does have a lot of connection to what people are doing. And you can sort of see that this is just about this stupid competitive crap. It's about picking an underdog, picking a value matrix thing, something that you care about, and just rooting for it. And so you people have decided to root for nature because you have a little bit of a, I hate humans, so I love nature kind of attitude, or I hate science, therefore I love nature. Whatever the thing that's going on in your head that gives you an affection for these little parasites and monsters living out here. This reverence for it as a system, even a system that will brutalize beauty, will be as rude can be to beauty in an instant. Yet you'll just glorify it. It knows what it's doing. And so anybody who's attacking that thing, that Gaia monster of yours, that pet Gaia, they have these pets and they get an attachment to them, and then they'll contrive all kinds of bullshit to defend what is basically a dog with the brain of a dinosaur. It's just stupid. It's idiotic. It's moronic. And then these people will sit there and point their finger and mock somebody else. What a joke. Well, anyway, enough said. What if that was me? What if that was me? What if that was me? Do we have a purpose? Our purpose is just to get more complicated? Purpose in just becoming more complicated. Come on, the game is all about our desire. That's all it is. It's a chasing desire game. And it's all contrived through evolution by a damn molecule, you dumbasses. Consumption, reproduction, for no end. There's no end here. There's no purpose here. It's a mechanical process, like fire or like any other chemical process. Once it starts, well, boom, it's going to keep going until it runs out of fuel. This is just so reckless. We're a type of fire. We're a forest fire. We're a chemical reaction that's going to keep on happening because this one cell acquired the ability to reproduce itself. It was a suitable environment, and nothing killed it in any one stage of its existence. And so it's just going to keep doing this shit until, you know, it runs into some kind of brick wall, and the brick wall won't have anything left to consume. I mean, the layers of living things will be so thick that house of cards will fall in on itself. An asteroid, the planet blows up, some sort of scenario. But the idea of deliberately taking this stupid thing that we're doing, we're fucking goddamn bugs. Let's build a $1 zillion spaceship and put a mosquito in it and send the mosquito off to another planet to go do mosquito stuff. For what? It's a stupid thing to do. It'd be goddamn idiotic. Let's go send some praying mantises into space. But I really haven't got to the meat of the argument yet. Because you run into this amazing problem where the argument doesn't even have to be made. You can get the God delusion out of people's heads and the nature delusion. You know, so now nature knows what it's doing. I mean, once you defeat those two delusions, there's nothing to argue here. I mean, the facts are obvious, and they point directly to, we are just caught up in addiction. We are just addicted to this shit. So we keep doing it. We keep doing it because we're addicted, damn it. We're not doing it for a fucking rational reason. We're doing it because we're horny for another day. And we've been made horny. Just so fucking being played. The strings are just so now obvious that what's pulling them is goddamn fucking microbe, you assholes. This will be like the basic intention. Like if you had to sum up life in one paragraph, this is the one paragraph I wrote. And basically it'll be the job of the book to explain why this is the truth. And all your other bullshit is just that bullshit. We humans are just one of the eccentric forms of reproducing matter that has evolved over billions of years on the material planet we call Earth. We do possess the faculty of consciousness, the ability to think and feel. But in simple truth, that ability serves no intention, and there is little probability that we can put that faculty or ourselves to any universally constructive or more than contrived purpose. We are in fact as a kind incapable of doing anything of merit beyond cleaning up the messes we and the rest of the material universe make. Life is in fact just a harmful parasitic infection that can at best only achieve the minor brilliance of perhaps someday terminating the mistake that was its instigation. So there, that's the truth. That's the fucking truth. Best we can do is get the fuck out of this game. Take our losses, get up from the table and say, that's enough, no mas. Quit fucking with this goddamn thing, because you can't win, you dumb asses. All you can do is scratch itches. Do you understand that? Something has to bite you. Something has to irritate you, fuck you up, before you can go to the process of relieving deprivation, your misery, your itch, your negative. You know, and that's all we can do is just fix the negatives. Negatives that don't have to fucking exist in the first place. All purpose is a delusion. I mean, all purpose beyond janitorial duties, beyond managing the suffering that's all the fuck around you, you assholes. It's a human race. What the fuck have we done to merit going to any other planet and doing it over there? We've got billions of animals in captive, harsh, brutal, torturous slavery. Most of the human population is living in squalor, in shit, just eking out existence. Even if we perfected this stupid thing we call life, it's still accomplishing nothing. It's merely entertaining needs that don't need to exist. This is not scratching any itch the universe has. There's no fucking truth out there in the universe any different than the truth that's right here, right in front of your fucking faces. Life is stupid. It's fire. That's all it is. It's a chemical fucking reaction.
Well, who the fuck's actually watching right now? It says someone's watching, but no one's commenting. Maybe they're just watching in silence. I don't know. I kind of feel like ending the stream and then starting a new one talking about a different subject, because this one's mainly just been about consciousness. So I kind of want to rename the stream to Consciousness BS. Yeah. There we go. Evolution, EFILism, and consciousness. Let's end the stream with that title. That seems like a better title, because everything's kind of about evolution, EFILism, and consciousness in this stream. And let's start a new one where we actually maybe, I don't fucking know. It seems like a good time to end this stream, because we're kind of taking its subject and being like, that's done with now. We've talked about consciousness and evolution for like 2 hours, basically. So, yeah.